The food supply within the territory is plentiful. For him and Era, it's somewhat surplus. As the lords now all have food, meat is no longer a hot commodity in the channel and is hard to sell. Feng Hao roughly calculated it. This situation will probably continue for about a week or so. Only when people have consumed all the meat obtained from the frenzied beast's blood, the price of meat will rise on the market. Feng Hao is not in a hurry either. Although not many people buy meat, basic equipment such as iron axes and wooden shields are still selling well. For him as a merchant, the impact is basically negligible. However, everyone is still poor and there are not many resources to exchange. They like to use the excuse that we are all fellow Earthlings and freeload Feng Hao's items. Feng Hao inspected the territory. "Master, breakfast is ready," Era called out. Feng Hao returned to the wooden house and sat down at the table. Today's breakfast is a slice of steak and a bowl of vegetable soup. The vegetables were obtained from the orcs' territory and are their reserves. Now they are his. With plenty of ingredients, Era can cook more and more lavish food. Just having meat will get tiring to eat sooner or later. "Master, are you still going to sell iron swords at the Manwha market?" Era asked softly with her big eyes wide open. Having got familiar with Feng Hao, she was no longer as reserved as before. "I promised Bronze Bull to make a batch of goods for him. Today is the delivery day," Feng Hao replied while eating. "Oh, master, we are running low on seasoning in the storeroom. When you go to the market this time, we need to replenish some seasoning," Era said. "All right, remind me at that time," Feng Hao responded. "Okay," Era agreed. The previous sauces were all obtained from the orcs' camp. Although it's only been 2 days, they were consumed quite fast. "We can take this opportunity to buy some seasonings when we go to the orc market." After finishing breakfast, Feng Hao asked Era to bring the wagon, and he began to craft axe hammers. Axe hammer, green, wood 3, iron 12, leather 2. The crafting of the axe hammer consumes a hefty amount of iron. If not for his 100-fold amplification counting as a manual labor fee, he might not profit from this trade. Of course, trading with Bronze Bull, Taillock has benefits beyond just making money. Getting in touch with a market manager is precisely what Feng Hao needs. The materials are plentiful. He sets the crafting quantity to 30 pieces. 100-fold amplification triggered, received 3030 axe hammers. The next second, a pile of heavy axe hammers sprung up around Feng Hao. The axe hammer is heavier than an ordinary battle axe. The large fan-shaped axe face, carved with totem-like patterns, is full of violent aesthetics. When Era led the horse-drawn carriage over, she was also startled by the sight before her. She was only away for a few minutes. How did so many weapons appear? "We can load up the car now," Era said. "Okay," Feng Hao commanded the skeletons to start loading the carriage, while Era jumped onto the roof of the carriage to secure all the goods with hemp rope. Even so, Feng Hao still underestimated the weight of the axe hammers. 5 carriages couldn't carry 3,000 axe hammers at all. He had no choice but to call for 5 more flat cars, each drawn by a skeleton wolf. After the goods were loaded, Feng Hao counted 30,000 skeletons to defend, and they left the territory in a grand fashion. The management of the territory was handed over to Nelson. Of course, it's just a day's journey. There's not much to manage. With previous experience, this trip to the Manwha market was a familiar one. After a few hours of travel, they could see the outline of the city. "Master, you can see the Manwha market," Era said. "Ah, we're here." Feng Hao sat up and immediately closed the Book of Lords. The orcs harbor hostility towards the undead. Especially with a group of tens of thousands approaching the city, it would surely cause great panic. If that happens, smooth trading would be difficult. "Change direction," Feng Hao said. The team began to change direction and set up camp again under the cliff where they camped last time. All the skeletons were left behind. He and Era rushed the 5 carriages ahead to the Manwha market. Soon, they arrived at the city gate. 2 strong Taurens stared at them both. "I told Chieftain Taillock that I would come to deliver goods today," Feng Hao stated indifferently. The Tauren nodded. "Okay, go in. The chieftain ordered that if you come, you should see him directly." Feng Hao looked at the Tauren. All looked the same, but the Tauren remembered Feng Hao's appearance. After all these years, only one human came. That made recognition not so difficult. Can you arrange for someone to transport these 5 carriages of goods first? We need to go back for another 5 carriages, Feng Hao said. Due to the quantity and weight of the goods. This time, a total of 10 carriages were used, 5 of which were horses, and the other 5 were skeleton wolves. After sending this trip, another trip is needed to get the remaining goods. The Tauren guard looked at them both with confusion but didn't ask too much. He arranged for workers to unload the goods from the carriage and transport them to the chief's hall. Meanwhile, Feng Hao and Era returned to the camping place with an empty carriage and took another 5 carriages of goods. 2 round trips wasted a lot of time. Only then was all the cargo delivered. Feng Hao returned to the chief's great hall once again and saw the all-bronze hero, Bronze Bull, Talok. Chieftain Talok, how about it? Are you satisfied with the quality of the goods? Feng Hao asked with a smile, after changing his physique and learning magic. The pressure brought by Bronze Bull didn't feel as intense as before. His speech was also more casual. Very good, I am very satisfied with this trade, Talok said loudly. Before Feng Hao's second batch of goods arrived, he had already checked the goods. The quality was very good, and so were all of them. This made him very satisfied with this batch of goods. Haha, thank you, chieftain, for your trust. Then this trade is considered achieved. Feng Hao was also very satisfied. Talok naturally understood what Feng Hao was saying. With a clap of his hands, a Tauren came in from the side door, holding a wooden box in his arms. As the Tauren approached, they could hear the sound of gold coins colliding inside the box. Thump, the box was placed at Feng Hao's feet with a dull sound. Warfire coins, 24,000 pieces. Okay, let's talk about the next trade, Talok said loudly. The first trade between the two sides can be considered as a mutual test. Each other's sincerity, strength, are all within the scope of each other's consideration. Feng Hao delivered 3,000 quality axe hammers in 3 days, which pleased Talok greatly. Similarly, the fact that Talok so readily took out 24,000 Warfire coins also surprised Feng Hao at Bronze Bull's currency reserve. The trade can continue. Of course, Feng Hao smiled and replied, this time I want 3,000 sets of armor. How long will you need to deliver? 5 days. Are you sure? Hearing Feng Hao quoting 5 days again, Talok's bovine eyes widened in disbelief. Feng Hao's delivery time surprised Talok. The Taurens had their own blacksmiths. If they chose to order from Feng Hao regardless, the speed of crafting the equipment was the crucial reason. 3,000 sets were no small number. Delivering them in only 5 days was almost unimaginable. Seeing the widened eyes of Talok, Feng Hao was taken aback. He was afraid that Talok's eyeballs might pop out from surprise, and that he would have to help him look for them on the ground. Chieftain, rest assured, I will deliver on time as promised, Feng Hao assured him. He had the Book of Lords and the ability to increase production by 100-fold, which allowed him to deliver at any time. However, there were some things that he also couldn't overdo. Exceeding the Tauren's understanding might cause unexpected issues in the transaction. Talok glanced at him again and came back to his seat. All right, as long as you have a plan. Say, C-H-U-O-E-O-D-O-U-L. I will deliver the armor on time, but I still need the blueprint from you, chieftain, Feng Hao stated. Don't worry, I can provide you with the blueprint, Talok lightly responded. For all lords, the importance of a blueprint goes far beyond a single piece of equipment. Soon, a Tauren brought the blueprint and handed it to Feng Hao. Plate armor crafting blueprint, green. Armlet crafting blueprint, green. Plate armor, 12 leather, 6 iron, 4 iron plates. Armlet, 5 leather, 3 iron, 2 iron plates. Feng Hao was excited. They were 2 pieces of green equipment. He could produce them in bulk and upgrade all his skeleton army to green equipment, enhancing their combat power. What's the price, chieftain? At what price do you plan to purchase this batch of goods? 25 Warfire coins each set, Talok gave his price. Feng Hao shook his head, quite dissatisfied with the price. A set referred to 2 pieces, both of which were green equipment. The materials required must be quite a lot, especially the third kind. Iron plate, a new material that needed a blueprint. Even though he had a 100-fold increase, he still couldn't lower the price too much. Chieftain Telik, this price won't even cover the labor cost. It's hard for me to agree. Feng Hao placed the blueprint back on the table, pretending to consider. Telik knew he offered a low price, so he asked, "What price do you think is right?" 70 Warfire coins for one set. Feng Hao emphasized the 3 words, Warfire coin. 70 is too high. Let's each take a step back and make it 50, Telik stated in a deep voice. Chieftain Telik, with only 5 days and a guarantee on the quality, I'm also under great pressure. 60 Warfire coins, no less, or else I'd be suffering losses. Feng Hao added 10 to his asking price. Telik started to ponder. He seemed to be considering whether to accept this price. After a long thought, he slammed the table. All right, I agree. Point 1. Good, I will deliver on time in 5 days. Feng Hao revealed a smile, and picked up the blueprint again from the table. He didn't claim the blueprint in front of Telik because it was better not to expose too many secrets. By the way, Chieftain Telik, where can I buy some horses and spices? Feng Hao asked again. The 10 horses in his territory were not enough to deliver goods. Especially this time with the 3,000 sets of armor, more horses would be necessary. He plans to buy more to avoid a shortage when needed. You can buy those in the market. You can take a look around, don't worry about safety. No one dares to cause trouble in Manwha, Telik said gravely. All right, then I won't disturb your rest, chieftain. Feng Hao left the chieftain's hall, and the 24,000 Warfire coins were temporarily kept by Telik for safekeeping. After he finished his shopping, he would take the coins away. Outside the door, Era was quietly waiting. Seeing Feng Hao come out, she happily greeted him. Master, did it go well? Era asked in her crisp voice. It went well, made a good profit and accepted a bigger order, Feng Hao confidently answered while walking. Where are we going next? Era followed Feng Hao's steps and continued to ask. From his direction, he wasn't going to where the carriage was parked. But instead, he was heading to the market. I'm going to buy some horses and spices you suggested, Feng Hao stated. Okay, Era replied and silently followed behind. The two of them arrived at the market. This was the busiest area in Manwha. The entire area was full of various stalls. Vendors were hawking their goods. A leisurely human in the orc market certainly attracted a lot of attention. Greedy eyes measured Feng Hao up and down. Feng Hao disregarded them, continuing to saunter around casually. Era, however, was a bit timid and closely followed behind him. The two of them wandered around the market, choosing what they were fond of. Soon, Feng Hao discovered that although the orc market seemed to have many stalls, the variety of goods was quite scarce. Many vendors spread a cloth in front of them, placed 2 pieces of animal skin or unidentified ore, and began selling it. How much for these stones? Feng Hao squatted down in front of a female ore's stall, examining the resources on display. Beast Tooth 55, Natural Gem 22, Trace of the Earth 3, Trace of Brutality 5, Trace of Violence 5. The rest were animal skin products, which Feng Hao didn't need, so he didn't pay them much attention. What are you interested in? These are resources, not just rocks, the female orc corrected him. The female orc belonged to the demon orc lineage. She had a large mouth with prominent tusks and her body was covered with robust muscles. Sitting cross-legged, her bare thighs were covered with thick hair, as if she was wearing fur pants. I'll take all these, Fang stated, pointing at Beast Tooth, Natural Gem, and all the other resources. All of them? The female orc asked surprisingly. Yes, if you give me a discount, I'll consider buying it all. Feng Hao smiled. It was very rare to encounter someone selling so many rare resources at once. He had enough money and could use it either to upgrade buildings or for storage. Are you paying with money or bartering? Warfire coins. All right, wait a moment. The female orc was silent, trying to calculate a reasonable price without scaring off the potential customer. It's 55 Warfire coins to take all. How about that? After a while, the female orc spoke again. I don't like dealing with pennies. 50 Warfire coins, and I'll take them all. Deal. The female orc was straightforward and agreed right away. After exchanging money and goods, the transaction was completed. Meanwhile, a crowd of orcs had gathered around Feng Hao. As soon as he stood up, someone came up and asked, "Sir, do you need these gems? I have a few natural gems, I will give you a discount. I have some too, you should have a look." People gathered around him from all sides, pushing their resources onto him. Soon, he received hundreds of rare resources and spotted a blueprint unintentionally. Wooden Enhancer Blueprint, Bone Powder 5, Tree Sap 4, Water L. Description: material that makes wooden planks more sturdy. After purchasing some resources, Feng Hao and his companion continued on their way. Soon, they saw a stall selling horses up ahead. "How much for these horses?" Feng Hao approached the horse stall and asked. "There are many types of mounts for orcs. Horses and seat wolves are among them, it all depends on how the troops are paired." The orc selling horses looked up and down at the humans before him. When his gaze slid to the coin purse around the waist that felt weightless, he displayed a disdainful look. However, when his gaze fell on the flame ring in Feng Hao's hand, his expression changed immediately. Based on his many years of experience in the market, this ring was definitely not ordinary. It could even be a rarely seen magic ring. If the other party did not have money, getting this ring would be a sure win deal for him. Hearing the human asking the price, he rapped the wooden board beside him with the whip in his hand. Then, with an obsequious smile on his face, he said, "Mister, it's clearly priced. Stallions cost 20 gold each, mares 40 gold each, they can all breed, you can continue to propagate them after purchasing." The gold here referred to beast-head gold, the currency circulated among the various orc tribes. Because the level of orc coinage is not high, the quality varies greatly. The exchange rate between Warfire coin and beast-head gold has reached about 1 to 5. 1 Warfire coin is equivalent to 5 beast-head gold. Feng Hao responded, and began to walk around the horses. There were a total of 5 horses tied to one side. When Feng Hao bent down to look at their bellies, indeed there were 3 stallions and 2 mares. Meanwhile, the merchant followed behind Feng Hao with a still smiling face. "Mister, if you don't have enough money, you could also exchange items. For example, the ring on your hand can be exchanged for a stallion." Hearing the salesman's words, Feng Hao stopped in his tracks. The ring on his hand, while not often used, was a genuine magic equipment that could potentially unleash a powerful fireball. Was it only worth 20 gold here? 4 Warfire coins? He must be joking. If magic equipment were that cheap, he would want as many as possible and fill his fingers and toes with magic rings. That would make him comparable to a strong mage. "I'll take all 5 horses, Feng Hao said in a low voice. The merchant was taken aback, he never said anything about exchanging for 5 horses. He promptly rebutted. No, mister, what I meant was, your ring can only exchange for 1 stallion, not 5. Think about it, with such a trinket, you can exchange for such a splendid mount, what a profitable deal. If you are willing, you can even take your maid with you for a ride. The broad back of the horse could accommodate any movement of you too." The horse dealer winked and leered, displaying the typical, men would understand, expression. Rabbit women may not conform to the orc clan's aesthetic sensibilities, but they are immensely popular in human city-states. Everyone knows what they're bought for. Feng Hao observed the flamboyantly gesturing salesman and Era's face blushed in embarrassment. Even her pair of rabbit ears turned red. "Shut up, enough with the nonsense," Feng Hao coldly interrupted the merchant's incessant chattering. Feng Hao's sudden reprimand caused the smile on the horse merchant's face to gradually freeze. Although conflicts and robberies are not allowed here, this was still the orc's territory. He, a human, dared to rebuke him while only being accompanied by a weak rabbitman. It's time to teach him a lesson about the ferocity of the orcs. "You human twerp, I was just giving you a good explanation and you dared to insult me. You must clear things up today or I'll kill you. Even Chieftain Telik won't be able to do anything to me." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. With this cold question from the horse merchant, several strong orcs stood up around them, staring coldly at him. Feng Hao had just taken out a few Warfire coins from his pocket. Hearing the other party's words, he paused for a while. After juxtaposing the shiny coins in his hand, he asked back, "So, are you selling or not?" The orc horse merchant, seeing the Warfire coins in the other party's hand, had his anger dissipated in an instant and resumed his greasy smile. "Oh dear, of course we are." The other orcs who had stood up prepared for a fight also went back to their own places. They were seeing for the first time someone who didn't keep their money in a bag but in their trouser pockets instead. "All right, 28 warfire coins, these horses are now mine." Feng Hao didn't wish to waste any more words with the man, so he brought out the exact amount of cash. "They're yours." The horse trader took the warfire coins with an overtly happy expression on his ugly face. He then personally unfastened the horses and handed the reins to Feng Hao. Watching the two walk away with the horses, the trader finally understood. The young human delicately unmasked his plot to snatch the ring, resulting in the sudden change in demeanor. But the man did have the money after all. Plus, the currency he had was the universally acceptable warfire comms. Interesting background, the trader mumbled to himself. Apart from these 5 horses, Feng Hao couldn't find any others for sale. For the time being, they would have to manage with these 5 and send them to the station where the carriage was parked. There, stables were available. They provided fodder, and if one wished, they could also have their horses groomed. Of course, all of this was for a fee. It was already noon. Next, Feng Hao and Era planned to head towards the tavern. Feng Hao planned to have his lunch at the tavern and to purchase some seasonings as well. Bang! As they pushed open the door, the copper bell hanging on the back of the door let out a crisp sound. When Feng Hao and Era entered the room, the originally bustling hall fell silent for a brief moment, then after 2 seconds, the noise continued. There was drinking, card games, and all kinds of activities. The tavern owner was an apron-clad Tauren who was currently wiping the counter with a piece of hemp cloth. "What'll you have?" the Tauren owner asked. "Water is fine, and 2 servings of steak," Feng Hao replied. Not all the orcs indulge in primitive behavior. They have their own civilization and customs. However, their dietary habits were predominantly carnivorous, with very few tribes engaging in farming. While the owner was getting them water after wiping his hands clean, Feng Hao noticed several pieces of yellow paper on the counter. "What are these?" Feng Hao asked curiously. The owner glanced up and replied, "Various information and resource locations sent by merchants from various places. 5 gold pieces or 1 warfire coin each. There's also a slave contract. Signing a slave also costs 1 warfire com." Manwha Market was a city with a significant population flow. Caravans from various places and tribes would also sell some information here. However, the information was not necessarily accurate, and after purchase, verification was required. So rather than calling it information, it was more like a single-page map. "I'll take them all." Feng Hao took out 4 warfire coins and placed them on the counter. The owner received these, handing him 3 maps and the slave contract. The 3 maps were of Ogre Base, Abandoned Mine, and Unknown Cave. Feng Hao put the maps away, planning to record them with the Book of Lords after leaving this place. Soon, the steaks were served. After finishing the meal, Era bought some seasonings from the owner. As the afternoon approached, the two of them left the Manwha market with everything they had acquired that day. After they had put some distance between themselves, Feng Hao began to use the Book of Lords to record all the blueprints and maps. Superior Plate Armor Blueprint, green; Superior Arm Guard Blueprint, green; Wood Enhancer Blueprint. Ogre Base, Abandoned Mine, Unknown Cave, Slave Contract, plus the 5 newly purchased horses, tied up at the end of the carriage, moving along with the team. And 24,000 warfire coins, enough for the expenses of the current territory. 3 single-page maps were incorporated into the main map by the Book of Lords. The strategic points of a few maps were also shown on the map. Among them, the Ogre Stronghold and the Abandoned Mine were not far from the territory, whereas the Unknown Cave was at a considerable distance. Next, Feng Hao would focus on exploring these 2 closer locations. However, while their locations were known, detailed information was still unclear. The scale of the Ogre Stronghold, its combat power, whether there were dangers in the Abandoned Mine or if it was worth mining, etc. These needed to be ascertained before taking further action. Otherwise, if he wasn't careful, it could result in huge losses. The caravan quickly arrived at the designated camping site. And after meeting up with the skeleton army, they began to return to the territory. The journey was smooth. Feng Hao returned to his territory with all the spoils of war. By the end of the journey, it was nearly dusk. While Era went to prepare supper, Feng Hao directed the moving of warfire coins and rare ores into the master's wooden house. These were all treasured items that needed to be properly preserved. There were no stables or paddocks in the territory as yet. Currently, the horses in the territory had all been settled in the pasture. The skeleton laborers took care of feeding them. This time, with an addition of 5 horses, Feng Hao simply planned to construct another pasture as a temporary structure before obtaining a stable building. He went over to the original pasture and began constructing a new one beside it. Level 1 pasture, 1000 lumber, 800 stone, 500 hay, 200 hemp rope. All the required materials were basic resources, and the pasture was built immediately. In a burst of light, the fences and hay sheds of the pasture were put up. Then, Feng Hao continued to upgrade the building to level 3. This was the highest level a territorial building could currently reach. The master's house was the core building of the territory. The maximum level of all buildings was contingent on the level of the master's house. Speaking of which, it had been 3 days since the bricks were mined, so they should meet the upgrading standards now. After settling the horses in the new pasture and assigning skeleton workers to take care of them, as soon as he finished these tasks, Era had supper ready. A simple dish of steamed meat, and a bowl of vegetable soup. The food in the territory was rather bland. But luckily Era's cooking skills were decent, and under plentiful seasoning, the food tasted quite good. He casually opened the Book of Lords to check on everyone's progress. As soon as he opened it, he noticed there were 2 unread private messages. "Brother Hao, are you there? Brother Hao, can you help me? Please reply once you see this." The messages were from Dong Jiayue, sent around noon. He had been too busy today, he hadn't opened the Book of Lords all day, and thus hadn't seen the messages. "I'm here, just saw your message," Feng Hao replied. He'd conducted a few transactions with her and gained many shadow stones, which sped up the development of his territory. Quickly, Dong Jiayue responded, "Brother Hao, can you help me? If you can't, I really don't know what to do." Desperation and helplessness were evident from her words. From their several encounters, he knew some aspects of her personality. Dong Jiayue was a rather cheerful girl, who could quickly adapt to circumstances and respond accordingly. When others were hiding behind protection shields, lamenting the cruel world, Dong Jiayue had already stepped out of her territory and started exploring the surrounding map. Although her development was not as good as Feng Hao's, she fell into the upper levels amongst regional lords. Yet now, she expressed helplessness and despair. "Don't worry, what happened?" Feng Hao asked. "I've been injured, and my wound is not healing. The doctors in the channel say I have a ruptured organ, and they can't stop the bleeding. Given the current conditions of the territory, I can only wait for my slow death." This revelation made Feng Hao furrow his brows once again. None of the lords who had traversed to this side had territories with medical treatment capabilities. For minor illnesses, hang in there. For serious illnesses, await death. This is why doctors have a high status within the channel. Some medical knowledge can be exchanged for valuable resources. "Let me see if there's anything that could save you. How did you get this injury?" Feng Hao continued to ask. He stood up from the dining table, signaled Era to start eating, and went back into the wooden house to look for some items that could treat injuries. Then, Dong Jiayue began to explain her experiences. There was a large ancient tomb near her territory, from which she had gained significant benefit. She used the blueprints to develop her territory, and sold shadow stones to Feng Hao in exchange for resources. Her development was indeed rapid. A few days ago, due to the orc blood-boiling task, the exploration of the ancient tomb was halted. It was only today that they regrouped, bringing a large number of recruited soldiers to venture deeper into the tomb and gain more rewards. But this time, the number of undead within the tomb far exceeded her expectations. Although they eventually won the battle, it came with great cost. Several soldiers died, and she herself ended up with severe injuries and a ruptured organ. Such an injury, not to mention in this world, even in the originally modern world, is highly dangerous if not treated promptly. Dong Jiayue sought help from Feng Hao with a try-it-out spirit. She didn't have high hopes. She couldn't think of anything that could cure her injuries. I was too anxious. I could have waited until my power improved, until my troops level up before proceeding with the exploration. But I killed so many people and now I myself might not survive. Dong Jiayue's tone was one of despair. Although she didn't die on the spot. After applying a simple bandage on the wound, it only delayed death, it didn't change the inevitable outcome. Don't worry, there's no hurry, Feng Hao replied. Brother Hao, do you have a way? Dong Jiayue sensed something. Of course, Feng Hao immediately sent her the attributes of an item. Exquisite corpse-raising coffin. Dong Jiayue sent a question mark. No, sorry, wrong one. Healing potion. Feng Hao hastily sent out the healing potion. The healing potion was something Feng Hao had found in Shadowwind Castle. He had kept it, in case he got injured, but now it seemed it should be used to save Dong Jiayue. Seeing the healing potion, hope was ignited once again in Dong Jiayue's heart. There are all kinds of strange powers in this world. Perhaps, the healing potion can save her life. Brother Hao, I have over 5,000 basic resources here, a wall blueprint, and 12 shadow stones. Can I exchange these for the healing potion? Dong Jiayue was somewhat excited. Anyone who was on the brink of death and then suddenly saw hope would probably be as thrilled. But Dong Jiayue was also aware of the rare value of the healing potion. It's as if a person has an extra life. No one can predict when they will encounter danger or get injured. When you need it, a healing potion is more valuable than any blueprint or treasure. She wasn't sure if Feng Hao would give it to her. Just give me the 12 shadow stones. Keep the basic resources and the wall blueprint for your own development, Feng Hao said directly. He didn't lack basic resources, and getting those from Dong Jiayue would not be very useful. He already had a wall blueprint and did not need another one. It's more like a form of support, leaving a favor owed. Feng Hao was quite interested in the ancient tomb near her territory. How can that be? The healing potion is so precious, Dong Jiayue responded. Just treat it as you owe me. Give me something good later. Alright then, I'll owe Brother Hao. When I find something good, I'll repay you. Okay, go treat your wound. Feng Hao put up the items for a specific trade. Received 12 shadow stones. The healing potion disappeared while Feng Hao received 12 shadow stones. These precious materials have quite a high price in the orc market. They each got what they needed. It seemed to be a gain for both. Of course, the value of an item is in its importance to you. Feng Hao has no use for healing potions, but at this moment, they are life-saving items for Dong Jiayue. Shadow stones are useless to Dong Jiayue, yet they are rare resources for Feng Hao. It's just a matter of mutual need. Both of them got what they needed and were satisfied. Brother Hao, I have used it, and it seems to have some effect. I need to rest and will stop chatting with you for now, Dong Jiayue said again. Okay, rest well. After saying that, they both ended the chat. Feng Hao walked out of the cabin and returned to the dining table to continue eating. After finishing his meal, Feng Hao didn't take a break. Instead, he went to check on his collection of stone bricks in the resource area. He had arranged thousands of skeletons in Shadowwind Castle to work tirelessly at demolishing and gathering stone bricks. Yesterday, he had already amassed over 160 stone bricks, so they should have reached the required quantity by now. Indeed, he had 240 units of stone bricks, just enough to upgrade the Lord's Hall. Level 4 Lord's Cabin, wood 2200, stone 1000, leather 240, hemp rope 180, stone brick 200. Upgrade. A faint glow rose from the Lord's cabin as the upgrade started. The countdown began for the construction, 10 minutes. As the level of buildings increased, so did the construction time. This was something to bear in mind in the future. He couldn't afford to be without a place to stay, especially at night when he and Era are upgrading. The 10 minutes passed quickly, and the Lord's cabin was upgraded. Level 4 Lord's cabin, Lord, Feng Hao. Existing structures. Level 3 underground cemetery, Level 3 warehouse, Level 3 Burial Grounds, Level 3 Lumberyard, Level 3 Pasture, Level 1 Spiritual Field, Level 3 Wall, Level 3 Arrow Tower, Level 2 Hall of the Dead, Guard Pavilion, Skeleton Conversion Field, Viscera Museum. Note: core structure of the territory. Upgrade requirements: wood 3,500, stone 2,200, hardwood 1,200, stone brick 1,000, hemp rope 550, iron 220. The area of the Level 4 Lord's Cabin had been expanded by 1/3 again. Although still called a cabin, from the outside it looked almost entirely built of stone with no visible wooden parts. "Master, come and see, we've got a new kitchen," Era excitedly called. Feng Hao also went inside the cabin to inspect. The first floor hall had greatly expanded, leaving a large open space where the tables and chairs were originally placed. Apart from this, a separate kitchen was added on the first floor. Era no longer had to cook outside over an open fire. He continued to the second floor. His bedroom and study had expanded again, and another bedroom had been added. Now, there were 4 bedrooms in the Lord's cabin. After a look around, Feng Hao went downstairs, planning to upgrade the other buildings as well. Passing by the first floor, he saw Era happily putting various cooking ingredients into the kitchen one by one. She seemed very pleased to have a kitchen. Outside, he first arranged for the underground cemetery to be upgraded. Level 4 Underground Cemetery, wood 1,200, stone 1,600, leather 2, hemp rope 240, shadowstone 5. The underground cemetery could be used to recruit skeleton laborers. With each upgrade, the recruitment limit increases. This is very helpful for territorial development and resource collection. Upgrade. 5 minutes later, the underground cemetery upgrade was completed. Level 4 Underground Cemetery, recruitable limit, 20/30ths. Recruitable. Skeleton, free. Note: soldiers for basic work can be recruited in this building. Upgrade materials required: wood 2,000, stone 2,500, hardwood 400, stone bricks 300, hemp rope 320, shadowstone 10, death trace 3. Level 4 upgrade of the underground cemetery is complete. The recruitment limit has increased by 10. But the materials required for the next upgrade have also increased significantly. Available recruits: skeletons 10, would you like to recruit? Recruit confirmed. 100-fold amplification triggered, successfully recruited 10 skeletons. 100-fold amplification was triggered and obtained 1,010 skeleton workers straight away. Go to the warehouse, pick up the pickaxes, and stand by outside the territory, Feng Hao said loudly. The recruited worker skeletons picked up pickaxes from the warehouse and went to wait outside the territory. With sufficient basic resources, he decided to assign these 1,000 skeletons to the demolition work at Shadowwind Castle to flatten the buildings as quickly as possible and collect more stone brick reserves. Fearing that these skeletons might get lost if they went alone, he decided to have them wait for his instructions and would take them over once he was finished with his tasks. Once all the skeletons had left the territory, Feng Hao continued on to the next building. Level 4 Burial Grounds, wood 1,700, stone 2,200, leather 350, hemp rope 500, shadowstone 12. These burial grounds functioned as the barracks of the Undead faction. Currently, they could recruit Tier 1 skeleton soldiers and spearbearers, all of which were melee units. With sufficient materials, it was an ideal time for an upgrade. Upgrade confirmed. 10 minutes later, the upgrade was complete. The only pity was that the Level 4 burial grounds did not unlock any new types of soldiers. They were still skeleton soldiers and spearbearers. Next, Feng Hao upgraded the Level 4 warehouse, city wall, arrow tower, and pasture in succession. By the time he had finished all this, it was gradually getting darker. He returned to his room, activated God's presence, and possessed one of the worker skeletons waiting outside the territory. With a wave of his hand, he led all the newly recruited worker skeletons towards Shadowwind Castle for the large-scale demolition work. Meanwhile, Skullcrusher Tribe, Chillywind Mountain. The Great Chief Shah was waiting with a gloomy expression on his face. Before long, the Orc priest walked in, looking slightly haggard. Great Chief, Kent's soul is bound by some force, and it cannot be resurrected through the altar. The priest said softly. Shah's face darkened further. Can we communicate with him? Amiri asked. If the Great Chief needs it, I can briefly awaken Kent's soul. All right, wake up his soul then. The priest nodded. Great Chief, please come with me. With that, they left the hall and headed for the altar. The Skullcrusher tribe was the most powerful orc tribe in Chiliwind Mountain. They had conquered all the scattered tribes near the mountain, becoming the strongest leader. But after unification, the tribe's development faced new difficulties. The land in Chiliwind Mountain was barren, and mining resources were increasingly scarce. So Shah turned his eyes to the resource-rich plains and forests for further development. Kent was one of the pioneer armies he arranged. Once Kent managed to establish a foothold with his support, the entire tribe would migrate over there. In the previous years, backed by the Skullcrusher tribe, Kent's tribe developed rapidly. They soon eliminated several smaller nearby tribes and established a firm foothold. But 2 days ago, Kent's soul had returned to the altar, meaning Kent was dead. And he could not be resurrected even through the hero altar. Soon, the two arrived in front of the hero altar. Under the altar, hundreds of creatures from various races had their throats cut, their blood forming a strange glyph. Great Chief, Kent's awakening time will be very short, you must ask him quickly, the priest warned again. Yes, begin, Amiri said, indicating his understanding. The orc priest began the ceremony. The figure of Fireblade Kent gradually appeared on the hero altar. Great Chief, we can begin now, the priest said, stepping aside afterward. Shah looked at Kent's flickering form and asked directly, Kent, how did you die? What about the others? At Shah's words, Kent's expression became slightly bitter, replying, an undead base suddenly appeared near our tribe. They annihilated our tribe, and every member died in battle, no one survived. Whoosh! The high-ranking members of the orc clan below immediately plunged into chaos. The undead faction has always been mysterious and strange. They rarely appear in areas where living creatures gather. And each time they appear, they bring about panic and chaos. Kent's Fireblade tribe had developed in that area for a few years, but they never found any undead bases. How did an undead base suddenly appear? What's the strength of the enemy? How many are there? Shah continued to ask. The enemy is only the scale of a village, with no hero units to speak of. But they have hundreds of thousands of low-level soldiers, Kent continued to answer. But the figure on the altar had started to shake violently, unable to hold on much longer. A village has so many soldiers? Shah found it odd, even doubting that Kent might have seen wrong, or that his memory was confused. Indeed, I saw it all with my own eyes. The enemy's leader is a human. I suspect he may have a treasured item from the undead clan, which allows him to control so many undead soldiers. Kent wanted to continue, but the next second, his consolidated soul shattered directly, turning into points of light that slowly disappeared. Great Chief, it's time, the priest said. Shah nodded his head, but his mind was pondering over Kent's words. He didn't feel a trace of sadness for the death of Kent and tens of thousands of orcs. War and death are the norm for the orc clan, they happen every day. His only regret was the support he had given to Kent's territory over the years. Who would have thought that a group of suddenly appearing undead could shatter years of effort? While feeling annoyed, he also remembered the last words of Kent. That the enemy might have an artifact of the undead in his hands. This interested him. If the enemy really has such a treasure, isn't it destined to be his? The Skullcrusher tribe is not the same as the Fireblade tribe. They had long conquered the Frostwind tribe, and had many troops at their disposal. Extinguishing a village that only had low-level soldiers was as easy as pie. As for himself, Shah was a purple level 9 hero, incomparable to Kent. Fetch someone. Immediately an orc stepped forward, Great Chief. Arrange scouts to go to the Fireblade tribe. Investigate the location of the undead village, and bring me all the information, Shah said loudly. Yes, the orc took the order and quickly left to arrange things. Shah strode back, feeling much better. If what Kent said was true, a weak human possessed an item that could control tens of thousands of undead. All he had to do was send troops to extinguish them and obtain this item. The power of the tribe would greatly increase. As for the battle, Shah was not worried at all. What kind of defensive power could a village-level building possess? He had absolute confidence that he could easily annihilate this village and get the treasure from their hands. The next day, early morning. The sun shone through the window, illuminating the room. Feng Hao rubbed his eyes, stretched, and got out of bed. It was a new day. After getting dressed, he slowly strolled out of the room. Master, good morning. Era was preparing breakfast in the kitchen. Seeing Feng Hao came down, she smiled. These past few days, Era had become more and more cheerful. She even occasionally told Feng Hao about the things that once happened in the tribe, as well as the orc clan's lifestyle. Good morning. Feng Hao waved his hand. He walked out of his wooden house, scooping out some clear water from a barrel for washing up. After upgrading his wooden house to level 4, it now included a kitchen. He wondered if one day it might possess sanitary facilities with running water. After washing up, Era brought breakfast over. Vegetable meat soup and a fruit platter. Given the current circumstances, Feng Hao's lifestyle was unmatched, completely different from other lords. Era picked up a piece of fruit and brought it to Feng Hao's mouth. Feng Hao opened his mouth to chew, the delightful sweetness and aroma of the fruit filling his mouth. I added some sweet wine to the fruit. What do you think of the taste, master? Era squatted by his side, watching Feng Hao with her big round eyes. Era still wore her ragged linen coat, loosely draping over her body, revealing an eye-catching bosom. Her short shorts tightly wrapped her buttocks, emphasizing her fair thighs that were full of sensuality. It was hard to focus on the meal in such conditions. Master, is the taste not good? Era asked quickly, seeing Feng Hao remain silent. Cough, cough. The taste is good, very good, Feng Hao complimented. The taste was indeed good, it had a refreshing wine aroma. He, that's good. Era giggled, picking up another piece. Master, please try this one. Breakfast ended, Era took care of the dishes while Feng Hao continued with his work. He had important tasks today. To perform a thorough check within his territory and see if there was any place that required his attention. He passed by the Viscera Museum. The main entrance was wide open, but Nelson was nowhere in sight. Ever since Nelson had told Feng Hao that he could create skeleton heroes, he hadn't come out. It seemed that the creation of a skeletal body wasn't as simple as he had initially thought. The skeleton conversion field was continuously converting orcs into skeleton warriors day and night, which significantly boosted the ranks of the Undead clan. Especially the converted direwolves, many of which Feng Hao had assigned to Shadowwind Castle for transporting goods. After making a round of the territory, Feng Hao found no places requiring his immediate attention. He returned to the Lord's cabin and after instructing Era, lay down on the bed to cast God's Presence. God's Presence target, Skeleton Scout, compatibility 65%. He cast God's Presence on a Skeleton Scout with a compatibility of 65%. Presumably, his compatibility had increased from 50% to 65% because of the enlightening potion he had taken. When casting God's Presence continuously, the consumption of spiritual power was somewhat reduced. The key task he had set for the day was to explore the abandoned mine marked on the intelligence map. He did not plan to travel alongside infantry but instead decided to take an initial reconnaissance trip with the cavalry. According to the map, the abandoned mine was located to the north of his territory and was not very near. After confirming the direction and position, all cavalry, follow me, Feng Hao shouted, leading 101 skeleton scouts towards the abandoned mine to the north. They crossed woods, swamps, and finally approached the mine. Just as Feng Hao stopped to confirm their location, fighting sounds and angry roars came from the front. Someone's fighting? Feng Hao raised his eyebrows. And strangely, the noise was coming from the place that was directly in his path. Let's go, check it out. The cavalry rapidly approached and finally saw the fighting targets. It was a squad of 10 pig-headed humans, holding their swords and looking nervous. And their foes were even more dread-inspiring. A group of rotting, head-crushed creatures had surrounded the pigheads and launched an attack. Damn, it's like a train to Busan. Feng Hao had seen rotten corpses at Shadowwind Castle, but none was as shocking as this one. The animals he usually saw had become odd-looking and fully decayed monsters. A giant buck with a collapsed half-brain encrusted with rotting pimples prowled about even with its eyeball dangling on the side. It was still launching attacks against the pig-headed humans. Even the pig-headed humans that died during the battle, once they fell, turned into decayed animals, behaving like infectious zombies. They would attack their former companions. The whole battlefield was filled with strangeness. Giant buck carcass. Prairie wolf's carcass. Fang Hao looked at several pieces of information of animal zombies in a row. And all of them showed that they were corpses. Not combat units. That's not right. At Shadowwind Castle, the information about rotten corpses would display their rank and skills. Why are these just showing as corpses? Clip-clop, clip-clop, the sound of horse hooves hit the ground, drawing the attention of the pig-headed humans and the animal zombies. Seeing a team of undead cavalry approach, the pig-headed humans turned even paler, as if jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. Today was their death day. The zombie animals, on the other hand, were more direct. The moment they saw Fang Hao and his group, they immediately launched an attack. Charge, kill them all. I don't believe that you, skeleton, can be infected. Fang Hao whispered, even if you are a zombie, you can be infectious. But that's supposed to apply to normal creatures. I don't believe that you, skeleton, can be infected. Hearing Fang Hao's command, the cavalry drew out their iron swords, kicked their horse's belly and then launched the attack. The power of the cavalry charge was immense, instantly cutting off the heads of several animals. The head of one prairie wolf rolled to the feet of Fang Hao's horse. Just as it stopped, a long thin worm burrowed out of the prairie wolf's head, trying to escape into the distance. Iron-eating worm. Ability. Parasite. With a light stomp from the skeleton horse's hoof, the iron-eating worm turned into mush. It seemed, the iron-eating worm itself had no offensive capabilities, but attacked by parasitizing on hosts. Shortly after, all parasitized animals were slain by the cavalry. The iron-eating worms, burrowed out from the animals' heads, were all crushed to death by the surviving pig-headed humans. Once the iron-eating worms lost their host, they had no power to attack and were easily killed. The battle was over. The skeleton cavalry surrounded the remaining dozen pig-headed humans. Whether to slaughter or spare them, they awaited Fang Hao's command. Fang Hao rode the undead horse closer, scrutinizing the pitiful regiment of pig-headed humans. This was his second encounter with pig-headed humans. Excuse me, does anyone know Mr. Fang Hao? Just as the skeleton cavalry was about to take action, one of the pig-headed humans mustered the courage to step forward. Upon hearing this, Fang Hao was taken aback. You know me? Fang Hao asked. The pig-headed human looked at the direction from which the skeleton cavalry had come from, Fang Hao's territory, and took a gamble. Unexpectedly, the skeleton in front of him admitted he was Fang Hao. The pig-headed human hesitated, then asked carefully, "Are you Mr. Fang Hao? I took you to the Manwha market a few days ago, do you remember?" Aha! From this, Fang Hao came to understand. This pig-headed human was Bolton, who took him to Manwha. Bolton, is your village nearby? Fang Hao directly called out the other party's name. He thought all pig-headed humans looked alike. If the guy didn't speak, and there was no significant difference, he wouldn't have been able to recognize him. Yes, Lord Fang Hao, you have saved me again. Bolton was overwhelmed with emotions and fell to his knees, thanking him loudly. He wasn't sure why Fang Hao had taken the form of a skeleton, but he didn't really care. All he knew was that thanks to their acquaintance, Fang Hao wouldn't immediately kill him and his people. Seeing Bolton kneel, the rest of the pig-headed humans followed, loudly expressing their gratitude for Fang Hao saving their lives. Stand up, what are you doing here? Fang Hao asked. Getting up with the rest of the pig-headed humans, Bolton respectfully answered. Sir, there's a mine shaft just ahead where we've been safely mining some ores. You mean the abandoned mine shaft? Yes, the shaft is quite large, but it's been occupied by these insects. No factions dared to mine it for a long time. Our village is nearby and occasionally we send people to mine some ores safely from the outskirts. Bolton explained softly. Thanks to Bolton's explanation, Fang Hao had a rough idea of the situation. The mine shaft had been there for a long time and many factions had tried to mine it. However, any creature that got too close would be attacked by the iron-eating worms and turned into a puppet corpse. No faction could stand such losses, so the mine was completely deserted, becoming an abandoned mine. The pigmen village wasn't far from here, and occasionally people were sent to mine some ores. But incidents like today's would frequently occur, resulting in casualties. They had no choice. The pigmen village wasn't affluent and was sometimes threatened and looted by other beast clans. Even though they knew there would be casualties, people would still be sent at the risk of mining ores. "All right, take me to the mine shaft," Feng Hao said softly. Hearing this, all the pig-headed humans turned pale. Bolton reacted quickly and said, "Sir, some of them are injured. Let them go back to the village and I'll take you there." "All right, let's not waste any more time." Feng Hao nodded in agreement. A few pig-headed humans glanced at Bolton and turned around to leave. Bolton led Feng Hao and the rest of the cavalry towards the direction of the mine. With Bolton leading, they soon saw the entrance of the mine shaft. The mine area was enormous, you could even say it was a minefield. They could see abandoned mine carts and some dilapidated facilities. It looked like it had been specially built at some point. "Lord Feng Hao, the worms are especially active today. They would attack as soon as you approach, making it hard to deal with," Bolton said softly. "Fine, wait here, I'm going to take a look." Feng Hao took his cavalry forward with him. The moment he stepped into the range of the mine, he saw puppet corpses of various beasts and orcs coming from all directions in the mine. "Dismount, fight," Feng Hao commanded. All the cavalry dismounted, drew their weapons, and began attacking. Feng Hao wanted to verify whether these iron-eating worms had any effects on the undead creatures. Sure enough, during the battle, one iron-eating worm left its host and tried to burrow into the brain of a skeleton cavalry amidst the chaos. But the next second, the skeleton cavalry reached its hand into his eye socket and choked the iron-eating worm to death. It seemed that these iron-eating worms were useless against the skeletons. As more and more puppet corpses emerged from the mine, Feng Hao gave the order to retreat. Retreat. The cavalry remounted their horses and moved far away from the mine area. After they retreated to a safe distance, the controlled corpses retreated and went back into the mine. At that time, Bolton came over and asked, "Sir, are you all right?" Bolton, who lived nearby, naturally knew the dangers of the abandoned mine. No one who entered it had ever come out alive. Feng Hao was the first one. Of course, as things stood, Bolton wasn't quite sure whether Feng Hao was still considered human. "Let's go to your village," he replied. The arrival of a group of undead cavalry. Brief chaos swept over the pig-headed human village. Standing on both sides of the road, they were whispering in fear. Under Bolton's guidance, Feng Hao went straight into the village. It was clear that the pig-headed human's village was not affluent. Identical to the previous Null camp in size, there were around 200 to 300 individuals. "Sir, please wait a moment, I will inform the clan leader," Bolton respectfully said. "No need, find me a grass hut, and don't let anyone disturb us," Feng Hao said. Sure. Bolton found a grass hut at the corner of the village. "Sir, is this place all right?" Bolton asked, afraid the other party might not be satisfied. "It's fine, just make sure that no one approaches during this time," Feng Hao warned again. "I will tell the clan leader not to allow anyone near here." Good. After Bolton left, Feng Hao had 100 cavalrymen enter the grass hut before he dismissed the state of God's presence. His consciousness returned to its own body. Feng Hao sat up from the bed. He exited the Lord's wooden house and stretched his body in the open space. After about half an hour's rest, he began his next plan. He opened the Book of Lords and flipped to the Manufacture menu. He found the blueprint for the fire torch he had before. Fire torch. Wood 1, straw 2, leather 1. The fire torch was a blueprint obtained from the previous battle against Zhuang Hong. Before now, there was never an opportune moment to use it. Create 100 units. Achieving 100 times amplification, you have received 10,100 torches. 10,000 torches appeared in front of Feng Hao. He had the skeletons bring a few carts to store the bundles of torches. After making all the preparations, Feng Hao returned to the room and resumed his god's presence. Target for God's presence, skeleton soldier, compatibility 88 degrees. Oh, when he opened his eyes again, he had transferred his consciousness to a skeleton soldier's body. He counted 8,000 skeleton soldiers, 2,000 skeleton spear wielders, and 100 skeleton giant bats. A squad of 11,000, carrying the prepared torches, once again headed towards the abandoned mine.
A few hours later,
Feng Hao and his team finally arrived at the abandoned mine again. The mining area was still deserted, the vegetation was dead, and no living creature could be seen. Set up the spear formation, skeleton soldiers, put down your shields and grab your torches. Feng Hao commanded loudly. The spear-wielding skeletons began to form a shield wall, their spears poking out from the gaps in the shields. The skeleton soldiers put down their shields and picked up the ready-made torches from the carts. After lighting up one with a flintstone, they lit up each torch in the soldiers' hands, one by one. Feng Hao's idea was simple. The worms were too tiny to grab, and it wasn't convenient to kill them with swords. However, burning them with the fire from the torches and pinning them down was effective. All the torches lit up, creating a sea of fire. Advance and kill all living creatures, Feng Hao commanded again. The skeleton army entered the mine, where a mass of controlled animals and orcs appeared again within the dark mine. They launched an attack on the skeleton legion. The spear-wielding skeletons pushed forward, their extended spears pierced all the attacking corpses. Iron-eating worms crawled out from the bodies and began searching for new hosts. But the very next second, a torch was pressed onto it, burning it to ashes. 8,000 skeleton soldiers, closely following the spear wielders, chasing the fleeing worms throughout the area. Facing the already dead undead, these parasitic worms had no way out. They could only be burnt or crushed to death after their host died. Soon, hundreds of animal carcasses were piled up in the middle of the mine, and some charred, crispy worm corpses. The battle outside was over. Next was the mine. Good, prepared to enter the mine. Feng Hao started to arrange his strategy. The mine was narrow, allowing only 3 people to walk side by side. He arranged for 3 skeleton spearmen to take up the first and second rows, while the following 3 lines were occupied by skeleton soldiers holding torches. The rest of the soldiers were stationed at the entrance. After all the arrangements were made, they started to line up according to the plan and entered the mine. Feng Hao positioned himself in the 3rd row, holding a torch in his hand, closely following the spearmen. The cave was pitch dark, with cold winds making the torches flicker constantly. With the help of the faint torchlight, the walls of the mine, marked with various man-made scratches from the excavation, were visible. It seemed that during the initial phase of mining, these worms were not present. They appeared later and occupied the mine. Going further in, the ground was already covered with bones of various animals. The bones were as densely packed as a mass grave. Soon, a large number of parasitized animals appeared from the depths of the mine in front. They launched an attack on the undead troops. In this narrow mine, a fierce battle broke out. The parasitized animals attacked fearlessly. The skeleton spearmen kept thrusting their long spears, turning their targets in front into honeycombs. Feng Hao and those following close behind were also very busy. They used their torches and feet to thoroughly kill the worms that escaped. After successfully repelling a few waves of attacks, the troop continued to advance into the depths. Eventually, they reached the end of the mine. At the deepest part of the mine, there was a nest assembled from countless bones. The structure was somewhat similar to a swallow's nest. But inside the nest wasn't a swallow, it was a gigantic worm. The bloated belly was like a spider, constantly wriggling. Iron-eating worm matriarch. Ability. Reproduction. Damn it, it's the mother worm. No wonder no one has been able to wipe out these worms for so long. The worms had already formed their social structure. As long as the matriarch was alive, these iron-eating worms would never be eradicated. Bang! An iron sword held by a skeleton soldier hit the cave wall, echoing continuously in the mine. The initially closed-eyed matriarch suddenly opened its numerous eyes, bloodshot, looking at them. At such a close range, Feng Hao could feel the fury in the matriarch's eyes. The body of the matriarch started to wriggle violently. Its tail was posed at a strange angle towards the skeletal troops. From the huge belly of the matriarch, the wriggling speed was rapidly increasing. The next second, the tail spewed out a massive amount of iron-eating worms, shooting towards them like a cloud covering the sky. Feng Hao stood in the third row. Seeing the worm swarm, as if sprayed out by a high-pressure water gun, his face instantly changed. Although the skeletons weren't afraid of these worms, he could feel a wave of nausea rising within. Raise the shields. The spearmen in the first and second rows raised their wooden shields. Slap, slap, the worms struck the wooden shields, making frequent collision noises. Spearmen, go kill the matriarch, the rest of you, clear the worms. Feng Hao issued orders after avoiding the spray attack. Ignoring the worms around them, the spearmen launched an attack on the matriarch. The others, on the other hand, started to clear out the iron-eating worms in various ways. Half an hour later, all the worms in the cave had been exterminated. After the skeleton spearmen killed the queen worm, a silver treasure box was found at the back of the nest. They made a small discovery. After leaving the mine, the skeletons also brought out the silver treasure box. They placed it in front of Feng Hao. Clear out the mine, carry out all the bodies and bones for incineration, Feng Hao commanded loudly. The skeletons began to divide the tasks amongst themselves. Some nearby chopped wood, while others entered the mine to transport all the corpses and bones out. Preparing for a burning, Feng Hao himself came to the treasure box and opened it directly. Reward: Iron Round Shield Blueprint, Iron Pickaxe Blueprint, Iron Sheet Blueprint, Warfire Coins plus 6/5. Upon seeing the rewards, Feng Hao's pupils brightened slightly. Every reward from this treasure box was iron-related blueprints. Iron Round Shield, Wood 12, Metal Components 5, Iron Plate 2. Description: the round shield of wood is covered with a layer of sturdy iron skin, improving the defensive power and toughness of the shield. Not too shabby. The iron round shield can perfectly replace the current hardwood shield, enhance the defense of the infantry. Iron Pickaxe, Wood 2, Iron 2. The blueprint for the iron pickaxe was something Feng Hao had been looking for. The demand for it exceeded even that of weapon and equipment blueprints. The mining speed of the stone pickaxe was too slow, and it was worn out easily due to its low durability. Now with the iron pickaxe, the work efficiency of the laboring skeletons can be greatly improved. Also, these iron axes and iron pickaxes are very popular items and can be sold at good prices. Iron Plate, Cast Iron Piece 2. Description: the processed iron plate is an important material for forging finished ironware. The appearance of the iron plate was a pleasant surprise for Feng Hao. The trade deal with the bronze bull includes the iron plate as one of the essential materials for the manufacture of the defense set. Unexpectedly, the blueprint for the iron plate was obtained here. As for the cast iron pieces required for synthesizing iron plates, although there were no clues yet, Feng Hao was not in a hurry. The delivery time vowed to Bronze Bull is still far away, and there's plenty of time. While Feng Hao was checking the rewards, all the corpses of the animals were set on fire. This was done to deal with the possible uncleaned worms hidden in the corpses. Might as well burn them all. The crackling flames consumed everything like a devouring dragon, enveloping all the corpses and turning them into ashes. The fire burned for more than an hour before it gradually died down. After letting the skeletons cover it with soil, Feng Hao led the team back. Passing by the pig-headed human village, Feng Hao used God's presence to change from the infantryman's body to the skeleton cavalry's body. God's presence target, Skeleton Scout, compatibility 65%. With a pulley on the rein, the skeleton horse reared high. The noise from the stables attracted the attention of the pig-headed humans outside. A pig-headed human cautiously walked in and respectfully asked, "Is it Mr. Feng Hao?" Earlier, the clan leader of the pig-headed humans had arranged for someone to invite Feng Hao to the clan leader's hall. No matter how hard they tried to communicate, these skeleton cavalrymen remained motionless like statues, completely unresponsive. Having no other choice, they were asked to wait outside the door. "What's the matter?" Feng Hao asked curiously. He still couldn't differentiate the appearances of the pig-headed humans. But the one in front of him was definitely not Bolton. At a glance, the pig-headed man saw that the skeleton was truly speaking. His legs trembled with fear. However, not forgetting the words of the clan leader, he quickly said with a shaky gait, "Respected Mr. Feng Hao, our clan leader has learned of your arrival. Please follow me to the clan leader's hall." Oh, Feng Hao was taken aback, then replied, "Lead the way." "Yes, sir, please follow me," the pig-headed man replied, immediately leading the way. The village was not large, covering a small area, and they quickly reached the central area of the village, the clan leader's hall. "Clan leader, Mr. Feng Hao has arrived." Please enter, Mr. Feng Hao." Feng Hao went inside the building directly. Inside the hall, there was a female pig-headed person sitting. About 1.5 meters tall, slightly plump. She was wearing a light blue gown with red flowers embroidered on the collar. Her skin was fair and she wore a gemstone necklace around her neck. Though she was the most appealing pig-headed person Feng Hao had ever seen, the pig-headed image still did not comply with human aesthetics. But it at least didn't cause disgust, resembling a pet pig. "Honorable Mr. Feng Hao, good afternoon, I am Petty. I heard that you will be cleaning up the abandoned mine. Do you need any assistance from us?" Petty asked softly. "No need, the abandoned mine has been thoroughly cleaned. Before nightfall I will arrange for workers to start mining," Feng Hao answered lightly. Hearing Feng Hao's casual reply, clang, Petty, the clan leader, lost her balance and directly fell from her chair. She quickly stood up, her powdered white face flushed red instantly. She coughed lightly, then said, "Mr. Feng Hao, what did you say just now? I didn't hear it clearly. Did you say you planned to clean up the abandoned mine?" "That mine has been attempted by many tribes, but has always been impossible to mine, remaining deserted to this day." She believed that she had heard him wrong or that Feng Hao had misspoke. How could it be possible that the news of Feng Hao's arrival was received in the morning, and the cleaning was done in the afternoon? "No, the iron-eating worms in the abandoned mine have been eliminated by me. And I will arrange for people to start mining later," Feng Hao stated once more. Hearing Feng Hao's second confirmation, Petty was sure she hadn't heard wrongly. Disbelief and shock filled her eyes. He conquered their helpless abandoned mine so swiftly and simply? It was somewhat unbelievable. If it weren't for the undead skeleton standing before her, showing off strength and mystery, she would have thought that it was some joke. "You're not joking? All the worms have been eliminated?" Petty inquired further. "There is no reason to hide anything. If you wish to verify, you can arrange someone to check right now," said Feng Hao with a calm tone. Then he added, "I have sole claim over the mine. If you harbor any ill intentions, I will take it as a provocative act." At these words, Petty's facial expression stiffened somewhat. She could hear the confidence in Feng Hao's tone. This kind of confidence was confidence in his own strength, and an indifference to the pigmen tribe. "No, of course not," Petty hurried to defend. The atmosphere at that moment was somewhat awkward. Petty had invited Feng Hao because she learned about his plan to clean up the mine and had wanted to assist while benefiting from it. However, to her surprise, he had directly mentioned that the mine was already cleaned up. Moreover, he had declared his ownership forcibly. This left her in a difficult position. Just as she was about to say something, hurried footsteps came from outside the door. A pig-headed man rushed in, panting heavily. "Clan leader, it's bad. An army of tens of thousands of undead has suddenly appeared and is approaching the village," reported the pig-headed man, wiping the sweat off his forehead and speaking anxiously. Petty was even more panicked, and urgently commanded, quick, get ready for battle." Saying so, she wanted to go outside, completely forgetting about Feng Hao, who was sitting to her side. Seeing her about to rush out, Feng Hao tersely said, "Clan leader Petty, these are my troops, they won't hurt you." Petty stopped in her tracks, her eyes showing more fear than surprise. The tens of thousands strong skeleton army had caused quite a bit of panic. Even though Feng Hao had said he wouldn't attack the village, the anxious pig-headed humans still shut their village gates. As for Feng Hao, he was sitting in the Great Hall, watching a few pig-headed humans whispering in the distance. Upon finding out that Fang Hao's massive skeleton army had camped outside the village, Petty called several senior members of the tribe, claiming there were important matters to discuss. They completely ignored Fang Hao and started quietly discussing amongst themselves. Some of them were arguing so fiercely that their faces turned red. They looked like freshly cooked pig heads. Thinking of pig head meat made Fang Hao feel a bit hungry. He wondered what Era would cook for dinner. After all, after being busy all day, having a delicious meal was quite a luxury. The pig-headed humans didn't make Fang Hao wait for long. After their discussion, Petty came directly to Fang Hao, knelt down, and softly said, "Honorable Lord Fang Hao, we hope to join your rank and become a subordinate village to your territory." The other pig-headed humans behind Petty also knelt down, lowering their heads in submission. The pigmen tribe was not strong and was somewhat weak. Fang Hao's territory was not far from the pigmen village, and with mining plans in the near vicinity. Petty and all the pigmen began to worry. On this continent, the only iron law was power. The battles between the orc tribes were endless. Even if Fang Hao currently doesn't show any hostility, what about in the future? Any small friction, mishandled, gave Fang Hao a reason to destroy them. By then, given the pigmen village's power, it would only be a massacre. A one-sided, helpless massacre. Now, Petty only had two choices. First, migrate, taking all the villagers to find a new foothold and rebuild the village. Second, yield to Fang Hao, become his subordinate village, and let him have full control over their lives and deaths. But relocation was not an easy task. It was very likely that they would be plundered and attacked by other factions while looking for a new place. Those who died would die, and the captives would be reduced to slaves and sold. So, after several rounds of discussions, they chose the second option, to submit to Fang Hao. Seeing Petty kneeling in front of him, Fang Hao realized what the pig-headed humans had been discussing. "What benefits does your joining bring to me?" Fang Hao counter-asked. Fang Hao was not really interested in the pig-headed humans. Skeleton soldiers, who neither eat nor drink, and work tirelessly, were his ideal type of soldiers. These pig-headed humans were not strong, their appearances did not fit his aesthetic. And having them associated with him would only hold back his development. Hearing Fang Hao's words, all of the pig-headed humans felt a bit awkward. They had been debating the pros and cons of joining Fang Hao. But from their conversation, it seemed that he wasn't very willing to accept them. This was a case of their presence being offered up eagerly. Yet the other party wasn't willing to take them in. "Lord Fang Hao, may I say a few words?" Bolton at the back said softly. "Speak, Lord Fang Hao, your territory is immensely powerful, but mining ores at such a great distance still presents many difficulties, such as storage after mining the ores and interruptions from neighboring forces. These are all problems you'll face," Bolton said softly. Bolton had been to Fang Hao's territory and knew that the journey was not short. Based on the distance, he proposed some potential issues that might arise. Upon hearing his words, Fang Hao was slightly moved. Bolton's words were not without reason. "Continue," Fang Hao commanded. Bolton continued to say, "The solution is quite simple, Lord Fang Hao. As long as you entrust these problems to us, the storage of ores and the defense and maintenance of the mine can all be resolved." Fang Hao didn't respond, and the others also waited in silence. The solution Bolton suggested was to make the pigmen village the outpost for ore mining. In the future, the mined ores could be stored in the village, and they would be responsible for the maintenance of the mine and the defense against surrounding powers. Fang Hao couldn't always focus on the mines since his main interest was in his own territory. But to be honest, this was a pretty great idea. Fang Hao looked at everyone and said softly, "Chief Petty, I would like to talk with you privately." The female pig-headed human was taken by surprise and quickly said, "Oh, okay." The rest left, leaving only Fang Hao and Petty. "Lord Fang Hao, you may speak now." Petty felt a bit awkward at this moment. She and her people were planning to become Fang Hao's subordinate village. But he didn't seem to be very interested in welcoming them. This made them feel a sting of rejection. "Chief Petty, I can agree to your joining, and will arrange for troops to protect your village." But I still can't fully trust you, Fang Hao said quietly. Hearing Fang Hao's words, Petty wasn't sure whether to be happy or sad. It was clear from his tone that he was reluctant. What do you mean? Petty asked through gritted teeth. I need you to sign a slave contract with me to ensure you won't do anything harmful to me, Fang Hao said straightforwardly. Hearing this, Petty's face turned extremely pale. A slave contract was not the same as being a subordinate. A servant bound by a contract could not disobey any order from their master. Even if it was an order to die, they must obey. Once this contract was signed, she would be at Fang Hao's mercy. This left Petty in a dilemma and she didn't know what to choose. I'll give you 2 minutes to think about it, Fang Hao said. No need, I will sign the slave contract. I also hope that you, my lord, will not make things difficult for the other villagers, Petty said directly. Well, you can still call me lord from now on. I won't tell others about the slave contract, he said. Thank you, my lord. The reason Fang Hao only asked Petty to stay was to allow her to save face. Being a former chief and becoming a slave to others was not a glorifying thing after all. The Pigmen clan village has voluntarily become your subordinate village. It can be confirmed in the Book of Lords. Since Fang Hao was currently using God's presence, he couldn't confirm it in the Book of Lords. Alright, you can explain to the villagers. I will visit in person later, Fang Hao continued. In person? Petty was a little confused. She cautiously stole a glance at him then quickly lowered her head. Yes, my lord, Petty responded. Fang Hao exited and returned to his skeleton army, and dismissed his god's presence. Fang Hao sat up from bed, picking up the Book of Lords from the bedside. He checked and indeed, the option to confirm the subordinate village appeared. He immediately selected confirm. The Pigmen village has become your subordinate village. You can name the village and control all resources of the village. Fang Hao didn't immediately rename the village as he saw no need to do so. But being able to control all resources brought him immense joy. The Book of Lords was connected to their warehouse, allowing him to distribute and use all of the resources stored in the Pigmen village within his own territory whenever he wished. Which meant, as long as the iron ore was put into the warehouse, Fang Hao didn't need to transport it to his territory. He could process and use it through the Book of Lords. Similarly, he could use the resources from his territory in the Pigmen village through the Book of Lords. This all greatly highlighted the mining importance of the Pigmen village. Unlocked new blueprint, stable construction blueprint. After becoming a subordinate village, a new blueprint was unlocked. With the horse stable, horses can now be raised there. When he opened the door and went downstairs, he saw Era airing out the carpet. Upon seeing Fang Hao come out, she smiled sweetly. Master. Fang Hao also smiled slightly. He had just seen a group of pig-headed humans. And now he was seeing the sweet and adorable Era. Such a pleasing sight. By the way, I have to go out for a while and might come back late, so you eat first, Fang Hao said. I'll wait for you to come back and have dinner together, Era said. I'll try to come back as soon as possible. Having said that, Fang Hao began to arrange manpower to prepare for the trip to the Pigmen village. First, he transferred back 500 skeleton laborers and 10,000 skeletal soldiers from Shadowwind Castle. Once again setting out, he led the major forces to the Pigmen village.
A few hours later,
when Fang Hao arrived at the Pigmen village, it was already dusk and there were deep red clouds rising at the horizon. Seeing another huge skeletal army approaching, the pig-headed humans in the village were filled with shock and disbelief. Just how many troops did Fang Hao have? Each time he moved, he had over 10,000. The clan leader had just announced that the village had become a subordinate to Fang Hao. Some young pigmen didn't take it seriously, even full of resentment. They believed that submitting to Fang Hao was a sign of humiliation for the orcs. Yet, seeing Fang Hao bring another 10,000 soldiers of the undead again, they abandoned such thoughts. They could only pray that the submission goes smoothly and not anger Fang Hao into leveling their village. The village gate opened, and everyone was looking for Fang Hao. I am Fang Hao, where is your clan leader? Fang Hao came forward from the center of the troops.
Wait, what?
All the welcoming pigmen were once again stunned, all turning to look at Bolton on the side. Wasn't Fang Hao a skeleton? How did he turn back into a human? Bolton had met Fang Hao before, immediately stepping forward and saying, "Lord Fang Hao, our clan leader is waiting for you in his room. You can go straight there when you arrive." Thinking about it, Fang Hao agreed. It would save others from seeing the signing of the slave contract. Fang Hao went straight into Petty's room. The room was dimly lit. The afterglow of the sunset, streaming through the pink drapes, filled the room with an ambiguous mood. Petty was kneeling on the bed, her back turned towards the door. Her light blue robe was half off, revealing her fair back. From the side, you could see her two ample parts, half covered, supremely enticing. "Lord, you may begin," Petty said softly, turning her head.
Oh no.
When Petty turned her head, all illusions shattered. "Petty, there's absolutely no need for this," Fang Hao quickly exclaimed. Even if Fang Hao thinks Petty is one of the cute types among the Pigmen clan, it doesn't mean that his aesthetics have changed to this extent. Pigmen do not match Fang Hao's aesthetics, just as humans do not match those of the Pigmen clan. Each side believes the other's appearance is peculiar and ugly. Hearing Fang Hao's words, Petty blushed even more and covered herself up, her face full of embarrassment. "Lord, her face flushed. Petty was hoping to offer herself to Fang Hao in order to ensure his kindness towards the village, only to be outright rejected by him. "All right, let's sign the contract. I still have many things to deal with." Fang Hao opened the Book of Lords and turned to the contract page. The Book of Lords contained 2 slave contracts in total. One was Era's, the other was a blank contract purchased from Manum Tavern. "Okay." Petty pricked her finger lightly with a needle. And when the blood flowed out, she directly pressed it onto the contract. The contract was complete. "Petty from the Pigmen clan, your current loyalty to me is 65. The initial loyalty is 65. It seems that Era's initial loyalty was more than 50. It appears that Petty trusts himself quite a bit." "All right, dress up, we're going to the mine," Fang Hao said. The contract ends. Fang Hao trusts the pig-headed humans more now too. Once Petty got dressed, they both left the room. Petty started summoning personnel to accompany him to the mine. Fang Hao opened the Book of Lords to create tools. Pickaxe, 2 wood, 2 iron. Set the production quantity to 10. 100-fold amplification triggered, you obtained 10 pickaxes. Wagon, 22 wood, 8 hemp ropes. Quantity, 10. 100-fold amplification triggered, you obtained 10 wagons. 1,000 pickaxes and 1,000 wagons appeared out of nowhere. It scared the pig-headed humans again. It's unclear who was the first one to kneel, but one after another. They all took a knee and bowed their heads in worship. In their minds, only a divine spirit could create so many things out of thin air. Even clan leader Petty, after bowing in worship, saw an increase in loyalty. "Petty from the Pigmen clan's loyalty to you increased by 30, current loyalty is 95. Good heavens, there's some unexpected gain, huh?" Petty's loyalty just shot up 30 points, reaching 95. Once everything was prepared, the two of them each lead their own group and started to head towards the abandoned mine. Standing in front of the now safe mine, Fang Hao said, "You don't need to worry about the mining and transportation. You just have to maintain the road between the village and the mine's defense. The mining is taken care of by the skeleton workers, and the transportation by the skeleton wolves. What the Pigmen clan needs to do is to smoothen the road between the village and the mine, and set up mining defenses to prevent any future attacks from other forces." "Yes, sir, I will arrange it immediately," said Petty. As Petty went to assign work to the pigmen, Fang Hao began giving his orders to the skeletons. "You, pick up the pickaxes and mine the ore here," Fang Hao ordered loud and clear. 500 laborer skeletons each grabbed a pickaxe and started mining in the mining area. "Your next task is to patrol the vicinity and ensure the mine is safe." Fang Hao arranged for another 2,000 skeleton soldiers to be stationed near the mining area. The other forces or wild beasts don't know yet that the iron-eating worms have been thoroughly eradicated. As time goes on, wild beasts will inevitably come near and bother the skeletons at work. Once everything was settled by Fang Hao, Petty completed assigning tasks as well. He came over and said softly, "Sir, arrangements have been made and work will begin first thing tomorrow." Today is indeed a little late to start any work. All right, let's head back, Fang Hao replied. They returned to the village. Petty accompanied Fang Hao for a walk around the village. The pigmen village is rather small and the village level is fairly low. According to Petty, they had moved here only a few years ago. Her father, the former clan leader, died during a hunt and she consequently became the new leader. After taking office, she began to sell goods to the Manwha market. They wandered all around and inspected every building thoroughly. The buildings included the clan leader's hall, the log walls, a warehouse, 3 pastures, a farm, a stable, and several dozen ordinary residences of the pigmen. Out of all these, Fang Hao was most impressed by the stable. The stable raised more than a dozen adult and young horses. After the village became a subsidiary village, the building blueprint for a stable was unlocked. From the pastures and the stable, it could be seen that the pigmen were skilled in raising livestock. The livestock they raised were all quite well, fairly healthy. After walking around the village, Fang Hao began the process of upgrading the pigmen village. According to the rules, Fang Hao can freely use the resources of the subsidiary village. But Petty needs Fang Hao's consent to use them. In a sense, this village is now Fang Hao's village. Petty is more like a temporary manager, acting as the village chief. Therefore, upgrading the village and increasing its defense level is a must. Upon this thought, Fang Hao upgraded the village immediately. He upgraded the walls to a level 3 and set up arrow towers at each of the 4 corners. He then upgraded all the buildings inside the village to a level 3 as well. Unlike the subsidiary territories, the building level of a subsidiary village can't surpass the region's level. It can only be upgraded to level 3. Petty watched the village expand and upgrade with an excited look on her face. This recent round of upgrades had accelerated the village's development by several years. My lord, Petty's eyes sparkled with awe, even though the human in front of her was still rather ugly. It didn't hinder her admiration and respect towards him. All right, I'm going to leave soon. I'll leave some soldiers here for defense. How many do you think will be required? Fang Hao whispered. Fang Hao still needed to return to his own land. He would leave some troops at the pigmen village for routine patrols and defenses. But the specific amount would require Petty's opinion. The other pig-headed humans in the village were still somewhat resistant to the undead. My lord, these undead soldiers, can they obey orders? Petty asked after some thought. If Fang Hao left and the undead soldiers lost control, they could potentially wipe out the entire village. Don't worry, before I leave I will give them orders. Besides me, they will follow your commands. Fang Hao reassured Petty in a gentle voice. Oh, that's good, then let's leave 1,000 soldiers. They will be responsible for the village's safety. Petty suggested. The village was not large, and 1,000 troops were more than enough to defend it. Okay. Fang Hao appointed 1,000 skeleton infantrymen and gave them the order to obey Petty's commands, besides his own. When everything was in order, Fang Hao started his journey back to his own land with the remaining skeleton soldiers. When he returned to his territory, the moon was high in the sky. The skeleton army carried torches throughout the journey, and many wild beasts closely followed them in the dark. But as the troops advanced, the beasts would run away. Following for a while, once they neared Fang Hao's territory the beasts dispersed, only returning to the wooden palace. Era heard his arrival and rushed out to greet him. Master, you're back. Era leapt into Fang Hao's arms, just like a kitten who has been waiting for its owner at home. She was slightly cautious and somewhat reproachful. Fang Hao smiled lightly, stroking her ears. Sorry for being late, I was busy, he said. Era of the Rabbitman clan's loyalty to you has increased by 8 points. Current loyalty is 98.
What?
Simply by stroking her ears, he gained 5 points of loyalty. Fang Hao gently stroked Era's ears again. Era lifted her head, her eyes filled with affection. Master. With a loyalty of 98, Fang Hao could clearly feel Era's reliance on him. A stark contrast from when he first purchased her. Okay, you're a grown woman, stop acting like a child. Have you had dinner? Fang Hao asked softly. Yes, I'll prepare for you right away. Era loosened her grip and went into the kitchen to prepare dinner. They had a simple meal. It was already late, so they went straight back to their rooms. Lying on the bed, Fang Hao first called the skeleton giant bat to patrol the surrounding areas of the territory. Only after being assured there were no dangers did he comfortably go to sleep. The next day, when Fang Hao awoke, the sun was high in the sky. He had gone to bed late the previous night and Era hadn't woken him up, so he ended up sleeping until noon. After getting dressed, he went downstairs and began to wash up. Master, you're awake. Era smiled as she said. Fang Hao replied, drying his face. Just a moment, master. I'll prepare breakfast right away. By the way, there's a skeleton merchant who arrived in our territory. He said to have a look at the market once you're awake. Era suddenly seemed to remember and hurriedly told him. The sudden appearance of the skeleton merchant gave Era quite a scare. Fortunately, the skeleton merchant was quite polite. After introducing himself, he returned to the market area. The mention of the skeleton merchant made Fang Hao pause. He immediately glanced at the wooden board in front of his gate that marked the time. As expected, it was the time that the skeleton merchant was supposed to arrive. All right, I'll go check him out, Fang Hao said. While Era went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, Fang Hao quickly made his way to the market area. The undead zone within the market. Ruer, the skeleton merchant, was leaning on his cane, elegantly seated on a chair as he waited quietly. Seeing Fang Hao approaching, he rose to his feet and respectfully greeted. Good afternoon, my lord. Good afternoon, Mr. Ruer. I was up late last night, so I overslept a bit, Fang Hao apologized. Haha, no worries. Would you like to take a look at the goods now? Sure. Ruer tapped his cane on the ground again. A gloomy tunnel leading to the crypt opened once again, and the bone racks rose. On the racks were 6 items as usual. Leather vest blueprint, white, price, 5 warfire coins. Wooden spinning wheel blueprint, green, price, 20 warfire coins. Forge structure blueprint, green, price, 25 warfire coins. Advanced hero contract, blue, price, 50 warfire coins. Viscera jar, green, J price, 50 warfire coins. Blank map, price, 2 warfire coins. Time left for the merchant's stay, 2 hours 12 minutes. Looking at the blueprints this time, Fang Hao was very satisfied. Indeed, shopping is the quickest way to fulfill one's needs. This time, he obtained many blueprints. Mr. Ruer, I'll take all of the goods this time, Fang Hao said with a smile. He took out 152 warfire coins from his pocket and handed them to Ruer. Thank you for your generosity. Ruer unhooked all the blueprints from the shelves and handed them to Fang Hao one by one. The market was in its early stages, and the items for sale were all ordinary goods. Of course, Ruer also had a good impression of Fang Hao. He was decisive, and he bought all the goods every time he saw them. With all the goods cleared from the shelves, Ruer slowly returned to his crypt. Goodbye, my lord. Goodbye, Mr. Ruer. I look forward to your next visit. Ruer gracefully bowed, and the crypt slowly closed. After bidding farewell to the skeleton merchant, Fang Hao began to examine the properties of the goods he had purchased this time. Leather vest, white, iron 3, leather 5. There's a difference between a vest and a saddle. A saddle is a seat placed on a horse's back to increase riding stability. A vest, on the other hand, is a type of armor. It provides the horse with a layer of protection, enhancing its defense. It tends to be used more by combat horses. With the vest blueprint, he could boost the combat capability of his territory's cavalry. He decided not to rush the production and continued to the next blueprint. Wooden spinning wheel blueprint, green, wood 22, metal parts 5, hemp rope 3. Description: an important tool for making fabrics. The spinning wheel seemed to be related to the tailoring industry. These were far off for Fang Hao, so he didn't hurry to craft them. Forge furnace, stone 12, clay 5. Description: let the furnace burn, where metal can be smelted into metal blocks. Metal blocks. Seeing the introduction, Fang Hao was elated. Iron ingots were the necessary materials for making iron plates. Fang Hao has always been keen on obtaining an iron block method. Unexpectedly, it was not synthesized by blueprint, but it needed to be smelted in a forge. After looking at its characteristics, He immediately chose an empty spot on the left side of the Lord's hut to start constructing. Then, a forge furnace built from stone and clay was completed. Forge furnace. Raw material, iron 5. Product, cast iron blocks, 15 minutes required. Description: you can obtain processed metal objects by heating. It is used for manufacturing and alchemy materials. Aha, so that's how to get the cast iron blocks. Feng Hao made 5 more forges. Hey, you guys will be in charge of making the forges from now on. Feng Hao randomly selected a few lucky skeletons to take care of the forges. It takes 5 minutes for each cast iron block to be made in the forge. And Feng Hao cannot just stand there watching, so he had to leave it to the skeletons to operate. The stopped skeleton stiffly turned around. It looked at the forge and went to the warehouse to put in the iron ore. Seeing that the skeletons could properly use the forge, Feng Hao felt relieved. And continued to look at the Advanced Hero Contract, Blue. Advanced Hero Contract, Blue. Description: an advanced slave contract that can be signed with the highest Blue Hero contract. He already had 2 slave contracts. This time, he actually got the Hero contract, which can be signed with a Blue Hero.
It's pretty good.
He saved the contract in the Book of Lords, not knowing when it might come in handy. The remaining items had all appeared before. Feng Hao knew their use. After checking the properties of all the items, Feng Hao went to the ranch area. Yesterday, after taking in the pigmen village as a vassal village, he unlocked the blueprint of the stables. After building it, he could raise horses in the stables. Choosing a suitable place, he began to build. Level 1 stable, wood 720, stone 4.50, straw 350, hemp rope 180. Description: used for the breeding and training of horses. After building the stables, Feng Hao continued to upgrade them. Due to the need for bricks at level 4, he could only upgrade the stable to level 3 for now. The territory is currently divided into 3 areas: the city center, military district, and breeding district. The city center includes the Lord's Hut, warehouse, guardhouse, viscera museum, and the recently built forge. The military district has the underground cemetery, burial grounds, corridor of the dead, and the skeleton conversion field. The breeding district has the ranch, spiritual field, and stables. All 3 districts are placed in different locations, they do not interfere with each other. Feng Hao's territory is a little different from others' territories. Other races need to build residential houses for farmers and soldiers. Most of the space in their territory would be occupied by civilian buildings. But Feng Hao didn't need to do this, there were only he and Era in the territory. They couldn't even fill one Lord's hut. Hero Nelson lived in the Viscera Museum and needed no separate dwelling place. So, even though he had these buildings, most of the territory was still empty, which looked exceptionally barren. Having finished all these, Era had cooked the meal and was calling Feng Hao to eat. While eating, Feng Hao checked the regional channel again. He wanted to see everyone's progress. How's that guy who got attacked yesterday doing? I haven't heard from him all day. I guess things don't look promising. If my territory were destroyed one day, I wouldn't be surprised either. Maybe I should buy some weapons from Feng Hao later, to increase my defense. Although they had survived the beastly blood boil, their safety hadn't improved at all. On the contrary, with the disappearance of the protective shield, more and more territories were being discovered by the local forces and were being obliterated. For a while, not only did the weapons in Feng Hao's hands sell like hotcakes, but even the meats that were difficult to sell a few days ago also started selling well. Yesterday, a dozen or so refugees came to my territory seeking to join. Damn, what good luck, free labor. What good luck, my ass. These folks don't seem like refugees at all, more like a gang of bandits. I only have a little over 10 village militiamen, I have a bad feeling about this. Why do you let them join then? Aren't you afraid they'll slaughter you? I regret it too, I didn't realize it at the time. I need to get more soul crystals to recruit more soldiers, just in case. Seeing this, Feng Hao remembered the pigmen village he had taken in yesterday. This is not a game. The digitization of the world only makes it easier for the lords who have crossed over to understand this world. The native inhabitants are no less intelligent than you, and even understand this world better than you do. Therefore, contracts like the slave contract that restricts the other party are especially important. At least after the contract is signed, they won't make harmful decisions. He quickly finished his meal. Many lords privately messaged Feng Hao, asking for custom-made iron axes, iron spears, and other weapons and tools. Feng Hao made some directly and put them up for sale to them. Only when everyone was generally well off could he, as a merchant, exchange for better and rarer resources. Otherwise, if everyone was poor except him, all he could exchange for would be common resources like stones and wood. Next, Feng Hao had to deal with his own business. Today, his plan was to explore the second map he got, the Ogre Base. He opened the map on the Book of Lords to check the exact location. The base was to the west of his territory, which was the direction of the lost wooden spirit he had encountered before. It was just further away. After getting everything sorted, Feng Hao went straight back to his room. After lying down on his bed, he used God's presence to enter one of the skeleton cavalrymen. God's presence target, skeleton scout, compatibility 65%. This time Feng Hao took a skeleton giant bat with him and headed towards the ogre base. With a clatter of hooves, he galloped all the way. He didn't pay any mind to the beasts he encountered along the way. He just rushed straight towards his destination. 2 hours later, as he neared the ogre base, he pulled the reins and halted the skeleton horse. This place was mainly composed of rugged terrain, surrounded by mountains, forming a kind of depression in the landscape. From afar, he could see the ogre base, chaotic buildings, and huge figures moving around. Feng Hao needed information, so he used God's presence again to change targets. He transferred to the skeleton giant bat on the horse's back. He launched into the air, flying towards the ogre's base. From a bird's eye view, he could get a clear picture of the entire base. The base was built against a mountainside, and lacked any form of defensive facilities like walls. Apart from the crude and decaying tents, there were bones strewn on the ground and various skulls impaled on stakes. Ogre, Tier 7 ogres, with their corpulent and enormous figure, stood about 3 meters tall. They only wore a piece of loincloth and wielded a giant mace. They were Tier 7 troops. Perched on the mountain ridge, the skeleton giant bat counted the number of enemies. The head count was not small, there were around 50 ogres. Once he had finished tallying the count, Feng Hao didn't linger. He flew back to the side of the skeleton cavalryman and ordered him to return to the territory. Feng Hao deactivated his God's presence mode and sat up in bed. He walked straight out of the Lord's cabin. The existence of more than 57th tier troops was unexpected for Feng Hao. No wonder there were no tribes near the ogre base. They must have either been annihilated long ago, ending up as food in the bellies of the ogres. Even Feng Hao felt some hesitation at this point. Destroying the ogre base would result in heavy casualties. It was uncertain whether this was worthwhile. Just as Feng Hao was deep in thought, a worker skeleton walked by him, carrying in its hands newly finished iron castings. Seeing the iron castings, a light bulb seemed to go off in his head. That's right, he still had the newly acquired equipment blueprint. Once all the troops upgrade their equipment and increase their defense, heavy losses may not necessarily be incurred. With this thought in mind, Feng Hao's confidence surged once again, and he decided to face off against these ogres. He checked the manufacturing column. He had received 3 types of new equipment blueprints. Plate armor, green, arm bracers, green, small iron round shield, green, a total of 3 green level blueprints. The blueprints for the plate armor and arm bracers were obtained from the bronze bull. Since he previously did not have any iron plate blueprints, he didn't upgrade the equipment. In the chest he obtained from attacking the mine yesterday, he got blueprints for a small iron round shield and ferrous metal production. Plate armor, 12 leather, 6 iron, 4 iron plates. Arm bracers, 5 leather, 3 iron, 2 iron plates. Small iron round shield, 12 wood, 5 metal parts, 2 iron plates. The skeleton soldiers responsible for territorial security numbered 54,000 and were assigned to patrol the area around the territory. Moreover, Feng Hao still had 18,867 wriggling spines unused. If Feng Hao desired, he could summon a sea of undead to wipe out all enemies. Of course, up to now, there hasn't been a need to use all the wriggling spines. For the time being, he would equip the 54,000 skeleton soldiers. He would produce 60,000 sets of equipment, including for the troops stationed at Pigmen Village and Shadowwind Castle. There were 174 iron casts in the warehouse. He would start by producing iron plates. Iron plate, 2 iron casts, all were made, totaling 87. 100-fold enlargement triggered, obtained 8,787 iron plates. Materials were sufficient, so he proceeded with equipment production. He set the production number for plate armor, arm bracers, and small iron round shield to 600 each. 100-fold enlargement triggered, obtained 60,600 plate armors. 100-fold enlargement triggered, obtained 60,600 arm bracers. 100-fold enlargement triggered, obtained 60,600 small iron round shields. In an instant, numerous green lights appeared in the territory, making it appear as if the sky was falling. Piles of equipment filled every corner around Fang Hao. The quantities were much larger than those obtained from any prior enlargement. Even Aira, who was in the cabin, heard the sound of iron armor clashing, and she peakily looked out to investigate. Fang Hao casually picked up some of the equipment to inspect it. The plate armor and arm bracers were leather armor, wrapped in iron plating to improve their defensive properties. The small iron round shield was a wooden shield covered with iron plating. In short, the addition of these 3 pieces of equipment increased the overall defense of the soldiers by more than double. This would allow them to exert greater combat power in battle. Once equipment production was complete, Fang Hao activated God's presence again, took possession of a skeleton cavalry, and gathered all the soldiers nearby to upgrade their equipment. After all the soldiers had changed their equipment, Fang Hao immediately set out an army of 30,000 infantry and 2,000 skeleton warriors armed with light crossbows, for a total force of 32,000. Fang Hao returned to his room and used God's presence to possess a skeleton soldier. Leading an army of 10,000, they marched imposingly away from their territory, heading for the ogre stronghold. 3 hours later, as the troops approached the stronghold, the frequently appearing nomadic animals were nowhere to be seen. Aside from the rustling of the leaves when the breeze blew, not a hint of birdsong or insect chirp could be heard. These ogres really are not to be trifled with. Even the birds dare not approach. Fang Hao looked around and muttered softly. Indeed, it was so. Rank 7 was the highest rank of soldier Fang Hao had encountered since crossing over. Neither the orc tribe nor the common Tauren warriors at Manwha Market had reached this level. Add to this the brutal and gluttonous nature of the ogres, turning the surrounding area into an isolated zone without any beasts or villages. The team continued to advance quickly, the iron armor of the soldiers clinking with friction. Soon, they had advanced to a position not far from the stronghold. The scale of the army, tens of thousands strong, also drew the attention of the ogres. They rose from the ground one by one, huge clubs in hand. Amidst their roars, more than 50 colossal ogres launched an attack. The earth shook, leaves scattered in all directions. Archers, fire at will. Fang Hao commanded loudly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dense iron arrows whistled out, yet the ogres blocked their heads with their massive arms, their footsteps never hesitating for a moment. Several ogres were promptly riddled with arrowheads, and blood flowed from their bodies and arms. When the ogres were still 500 meters away, Fang Hao issued the command for a full attack. Everyone attack, kill them all. At the same time, Fang Hao blew the warhorn. Circle after circle of faint ripples enveloped all the skeleton soldiers, amplifying their movement speed and attacks. Rumble, 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 the 30,000-strong skeleton corps mobilized. Their footsteps gradually quickened, and finally, they were running full tilt, charging towards the oncoming ogres. Boom, a loud crash. The skeleton soldier in the lead was hit by the ogre's massive club. Like a kite with its string cut, it flew backwards, landing beside Fang Hao. Fang Hao looked at the skeleton in front of him, which was still wobbling in an attempt to stand up again. Its plate armor, however, had already caved in, forming an eye-catching dent. The skeleton soldier seemed to have not suffered much damage. He shook his head. paused for 2 seconds, and then continued to attack the ogre. It seemed that the plate armor played a significant role. If it was still wearing the previous simple leather armor, this skeleton, when hit, would definitely be crushed to pieces. Boom, boom, boom. With each swing of their clubs, a number of skeleton soldiers were sent flying, crushed to pieces. But the number of skeleton soldiers was like a swarm of locusts in a plague, fearlessly charging and attacking the target in front of them. Fang Hao didn't just watch the battle, he unsheathed his iron sword and joined the melee. Splat, splat, the skeleton soldiers desperately swung their weapons, but the ogres had thick skin and dense flesh. Although they were only wearing a covering cloth, it was difficult to inflict lethal damage on them. In contrast, with each swing of the ogre's wooden club, several skeletons were sent flying and crushed into piles of broken bones. Fang Hao slid forward, dodging to the side of an ogre. With 2 quick slashes, he left 2 cut marks on the ogre's sturdy, hairy thigh. This won't work, going on like this. Seeing that the battle turned into a tug of war, Fang Hao began to consider other strategies. At that moment, the ogre's covering cloth caught Fang Hao's attention. Then, he revealed a cold smirk. "You may have thick skin, but I don't believe it is as thick." Before his words fell, Fang Hao thrust his sword towards the ogre's groin. Splat! The sound of a blade piercing through flesh resounded. The ogre that was previously in a frenzy, roaring and wielding a massive club, suddenly stiffened. It collapsed to the ground, emitting a painful howl. Its heart-wrenching screams filled the sky, attracting the attention of all the ogres. The skeletons naturally wouldn't pass up this perfect opportunity. They launched an attack at the collapsed ogre. A barrage of shield strikes, like an intense rain, continuously battered the ogre's head. The small chance of causing dizziness, due to the frequent attacks, occurred more often, causing the howls to sound intermittently. Fang Hao flicked the blood off his sword, glanced at the weak points of all the ogres, and said solemnly, "Aim for their groin." The ogres may not understand Fang Hao's language, but they could feel the focus of Fang Hao's gaze. Coupled with seeing the ogre whose groin was gushing blood, their faces turned ashen, and their legs clenched tightly together. The skeletons heard Fang Hao's command. They stopped hacking wildly, and whether they had a sword or spear, they aimed from all angles, attacking the ogre's groin. Even if the ogres tried to defend, they could not cover all fronts. For a moment, all the ogres had suffered attacks on their lower bodies, their howls filled the atmosphere. The battle between the two sides lasted for more than an hour. In the end, it was the skeleton army who relied on their sheer numbers to secure final victory. They killed all the ogres. Fang Hao looked at the scene before him and shook his head slightly. The ogres' bodies lay scattered about, and each one had sustained varying degrees of damage to their groin, blood flowing everywhere. The skeletons' losses were even more severe, with shattered craniums and broken limbs littered across the ground. Some skeletons' bodies were even flattened into an iron pancake along with their armor, pasted to the ground. Fang Hao let out a sigh. In this battle, about 8,000 skeletons had died. In addition, many of the surviving skeletons were badly damaged. 2,000 of you follow me, the rest clean up the battlefield. Fang Hao gave his orders loudly. All the skeletons began to move again, starting to clean up the battlefield. Fang Hao, accompanied by a few skeletons, strode straight into the ogre's lair. The ogre's dwelling place was akin to a massive garbage dump. The entire campsite was littered with foul and murky water. Skulls of various species hoisted high on wooden stakes, hanging like grandiose banners in mid-air. Dismantle all the tents and gather up the beast skins. After looking at several tents, besides the beast skins on the ground, there was nothing but beds. Of course, there was nothing else to collect. Following Fang Hao's orders, the skeletons began to tear down these crude shelters, bringing out all manner of beast skins. Fang Hao continued the search. Such a stronghold, with powerful 7th-order ogres, surely wouldn't be without a treasure chest. With the skeletons searching and dismantling tents along the way, they finally found a golden treasure chest in a tent by a broken wall. Fang Hao took a deep breath and opened the golden chest. Acquired. Construction blueprint for stone processing factory, green. Blueprint for Troll's brewing barrel, blue, 11 troll stones, 120 warfire coins. The gold chest from the ogres was quite rewarding. A green construction blueprint and a blue crafting blueprint were found. Stone processing factory. Wood 2,200, stone 1,800, thatch 550, leather 320, rope 400. Description. Through processing, the excavated stone can be made into squared bricks.
Yeah?
Upon seeing this description, Feng Hao couldn't help but rejoice. The halt in all construction works was due to the dearth of stone bricks. Consequently, aside from special positions, all the laboring skeletons were assigned to dismantle the buildings in Shadowwind Castle for their stone bricks. The progress of this work was extremely slow. Now that he had obtained the blueprint for the stone processing factory, he could arrange for workers to start producing squared bricks upon returning. He continued to examine the second blueprint. This was the first blue blueprint that he had acquired from opening a treasure chest. Troll brewing barrel. Wood 120, hardwood planks 50, metal parts 22, iron 5, iron plates 12, essence of wine 2. Description. A gigantic wine barrel crafted by alcohol-loving trolls. Simply add ingredients and clean water into the barrel, and you can enjoy pure wine. Holy moly! With this barrel, couldn't I open a tavern? Just add the ingredients and clean water, and it will automatically transform into wine. That's way too convenient. Currently within my territory, Era is responsible for preparing food, and she does a pretty good job. But all we have to drink every day is boiled clean water. I have missed the taste of beverages more than once. With this barrel, it could solve the problem of drinks. I just don't know how the wine tastes. Does it cater to human taste? After reading the information of the blueprint, I continue to check the troll stone. Troll stone. Category. Ore. Description. A rare ore containing the wild beliefs of trolls. Yet another unique ore. I'd better stash it away for now, who cares if it's useful later. After checking the awarded items, the skeletons have also completed their tasks. The battlefield was cleaned up, and this foothold was completely flattened. The scattered bones were buried by the skeletons who dug a pit. Load the wagon, bring back all the spoils, especially the bodies of the ogres. Feng Hao shouted loudly. Upon death, the ogres dropped 12 wriggling spines, but more importantly, Feng Hao desired the ogres' bodies. By throwing the ogres' bodies into the skeleton conversion field, he could have his own 3-meter-tall troops. He could summon them by using up the wriggling spines. Swiftly the skeletons loaded the wagon and tied up everything with hemp ropes. The main force took all the spoils and began to return to the territory. Unimpeded along the way, the large group made it back to the territory. Feng Hao withdrew from the god's present state and left the lord's hut. He first incorporated the 2 blueprints and tossed 120 warfire coins into his own money box. He then coordinated the skeletons to categorize the spoils. The bodies of the 50 ogres were dumped into the skeleton conversion pool for transformation. Whether it's because the ogre's level is high or they just have tough hides. Each body required 10 minutes to transform. While waiting for the transformation to complete, Feng Hao went to check on the brick production. Thanks to the relentless efforts of the skeletons, 127 units of bricks were available. Things that have been built are really not that easy to dismantle. Fortunately for Feng Hao, he obtained the blueprint of a stone processing factory. In the previously designated industrial area, he chose a piece of vacant land to build the factory. As the light faded, the building was completed after 10 minutes. Stone processing factory. Place. 0/5 workers. Raw material. Stone 2. Production. Bricks. Description. Through processing, mined stone can be made into regular bricks. Feng Hao immediately selected 5 skeletons. 3 spontaneous skeletons entered the factory while the other 2 went to the warehouse to bring stone materials to the factory. The setup of the factory was completed. The first ogre body was also successfully converted in the skeleton conversion field. Feng Hao immediately stepped forward and checked the attributes. Skeleton Troll, Tier 5. Skeleton Troll, Tiers. Faction. Undead. Racial characteristics. Undead, hollow skeleton, vulnerable to light. Skills. Fleshless body, brutal cleave. Innate abilities. Intermediate mastery in combat, Intermediate mastery in defense. Fleshless body. Passive skill. It reduces physical damage received by 35%. Brutal cleave. Active skill. Strikes the target, increasing damage by 15% and has a knockback effect on smaller targets. Note: the skeletal soldier transformed from a corpse still retains its characteristics and attack methods from when it was alive. The transformed skeleton troll dropped from a tier 7 creature to tier 5, still being almost 3 meters tall with a towering physique. Its snow-white skeleton is now exposed without any covering cloth. It has become the highest tiered and best attribute soldier in Feng Hao's hands. While the fleshless body skill seems to be an undead skill, it is also related to the troll's abilities when it was alive. Feng Hao remembers clearly, the impact of physical attacks was minimal when facing the siege of the skeletal army. If not for some underhanded tricks employed by Feng Hao, his side might have suffered even greater losses. So the fleshless body skill, which reduces physical damage by 35%, plays an important role in close combat. No need to elaborate on the brutal cleave, Feng Hao witnessed it personally. Skeletal soldiers were sent flying or smashed into fragments. It can be said that this skeleton troll is a powerful soldier. Opening the conversion field manual page. Unlocked entries: Skeleton Orc Warrior, Tier 1, Skeleton Wolf Cavalry, Tier 2, Skeleton Giant Bat, Tier 3, Skeleton Troll, Tier 5. The 4 types of unlocked troops can all be recruited by Feng Hao via consuming wriggling spines. When thousands of skeleton trolls appear on the battlefield, what kind of scene would that be on the battlefield? Thinking of this, Feng Hao couldn't wait to find a target to test the combat power of the troll army. While Feng Hao was thinking, the second skeleton troll was also successfully transformed. The 2 enormous bodies stood before Feng Hao, waiting for his instructions on the spot. Feng Hao slapped his forehead. Right, weapons, weapons. In the previous battle, the trolls' weapons were just large wooden clubs. Because of their huge size, even a wooden club could be very destructive. Since those were just ordinary wooden clubs, they were not counted as spoils of war and brought back. So, what kind of weapons should he arrange for them now? Suddenly, Feng Hao thought of battle axes. He had received a battle axe order from the Bronze Bull. The Tauren are nearly 2.5 meters tall. Although they are not as tall as trolls, they are quite close. The battle axes that the Tauren use should be suitable for the trolls. You, go to the warehouse and bring an axe. Feng Hao pointed at one of the skeleton trolls and said. Last time, Feng Hao used a 100-fold amplification to make 3030 axes. He gave 3000 axes to the Bronze Bull and left 30 axes in the warehouse. These massive and heavy axes couldn't be used by the previous skeletal soldiers, and had been left unused in the warehouse. Now it was time to see if the skeleton trolls could use them. Hearing Feng Hao's command, the skeleton troll went to the warehouse, brought back an axe, and returned. It needs to be said, the size of the axe matches the physique of the troll perfectly. Especially since this is an official weapon, it is definitely far more destructive than a wooden club. Battle Axe, Green. Category: Battle Axe. Damage: Tier 3 damage. Description: Iron and blood, pain and roars, always dominate the battlefield. Alright, you two, pick up the axes and patrol the territory, said Feng Hao. Transforming ogres takes a decent amount of time, so waiting for all 50 ogres to appear is quite time-consuming. Once that's done, tasks need to be assigned en masse. Just finished handling that. Era then moved her snow-white legs, walked over, and said, Master, it's time for dinner. Since I woke up pretty late today, most of my time was wasted on the road back and forth. After annihilating the ogre hideouts, I returned to my territory at dusk. I settled down at the dining table, and Era served dinner. Today's main course is steamed fish and oatmeal with sheep's milk. The spiritual field on my territory has already produced several mature crops. I also never stop trading for new crop seeds on the area channel, and assign the skeleton workers to plant them. Similarly, the unicorns in the pasture have started to produce milk, allowing me to taste the long-anticipated sheep's milk. Ever since Era arrived at my territory, I no longer have to worry about meals. Era's cooking skills are quite decent. She tries different things every day. Even though the food is simple, she can always make a variety of flavors. Master, Try the steamed fish. Era picked up a piece of fish and fed it to me. Her cute face was full of anticipation, and her bunny ears trembled slightly. The fish was traded from someone else on the channel. Era learned how to use chopsticks from me. I opened my mouth and allowed Era to feed me. After chewing gently, I complimented, "Not bad, the taste is very good." Hearing my praise, Era's face blossomed into a smile. "Master, eat more, it won't be good tomorrow if it's left." "Okay, let's eat," I smiled and said. After dinner, Era began to clean up the dishes, and I, leaning on the bench, lightly patted my swollen belly. Yikes, I accidentally ate too much again. While resting, I opened the Book of Lords. It's not just to pass the time. I'm planning to sell all the replaced equipment. I listed 54,000 pieces of simple leather armor and hardwood shield directly. I plan to exchange them for various resources and materials. As soon as 100,000 pieces of equipment were listed, the channel erupted. Holy shit, I'm dumbfounded. Lord Feng Hao listed 100,000 pieces of equipment. I'm flabbergasted. How is this possible? Even with blueprints, who has the raw materials for 100,000 sets of armor? This is impossible. What's impossible about it? Can the Lord be the same as you? I grabbed 20 sets. All my militia have them now. They are used, but the price is fair. I also bought some. They clearly show signs of use. Do you think Lord Feng Hao's army has already reached tens of thousands? Otherwise, why are there so many used armors? The one above me is smart, but how much food would you need for an army of tens of thousands? Even if you have enough soul crystals, you wouldn't have enough food. No, you're the one without a brain, then explain why all the armors are used. Okay, stop arguing. When I marry Lord Feng Hao, I'll tell you the answer. The sale of my armor caused quite a stir in the channel. The squabble between those two subsided after they ran out of their 10 free chat opportunities and got replaced by other chat content. The 50,000 sets of armor and 50,000 shields I listed also rapidly dwindled amidst the chatter. Even though these are vanilla armors, not everyone has them. I closed the Book of Lords and returned to my room. As I lay in bed, I used God's presence again. The next second, I was directly in the body of the skeleton stationed at the pigmen village. Feng Hao left 1,000 skeleton soldiers in the pigmen village. They were to assist in the defense of the village. Feng Hao controlled the skeleton soldiers to descend from the city wall. Coming face to face with the pigmen clan leader, Petty. "Petty, how is the progress?" Feng Hao walked up to him and softly asked. A skeleton approached head-on, suddenly speaking, startling Petty and making him tremble, his big ears rising. Then, he quickly realized that Feng Hao was once again using a spell to control the skeletons. "My lord," Petty hurriedly saluted, and the group of pig-headed humans behind him followed suit. "All right, take me to see your progress," Feng Hao directly said. "Yes, my lord, please follow me." Petty led Feng Hao out of the village. After a 20-minute walk across the forest, they reached the mining area. Outside the mine, the construction of the wall has already started, along with simple wooden houses and pigmen left on watch. "Following your instructions, my lord, the defense wall has begun construction. And the roads are also being worked on," Petty explained on the side. After officially becoming a subject of Feng Hao, the pigmen village experienced a significant development. The basic structures within the village were upgraded by Feng Hao. You could say that it boosted the village's development by several years. But these changes did not bring joy to the pigmen. Instead, their hearts were filled with apprehension as they carefully carried out the tasks assigned by Feng Hao. This fear towards Feng Hao wasn't just because he was their lord, but more so because of his ability to control the undead army, and his various peculiar abilities. The pig-headed human hierarchy had private discussions about this matter. Was Feng Hao a human with special abilities, or was he an undead disguised as a human? No one could figure it out. But they all agreed on one thing. They couldn't afford to provoke Feng Hao and give him an opportunity to dispose of their village. Therefore, they didn't dare slack off on the tasks assigned by Feng Hao. All of the men, women, and children in the village were mobilized to construct defense walls and roads. Seeing Feng Hao silent, the pig-headed humans close by immediately became nervous. Their manners showed their fearfulness. Good, the progress isn't bad. After a slight pause, Feng Hao softly spoke. Phew. Suddenly, there were several relieved sighs from behind him. As long as my lord is pleased, we are just doing our jobs. Petty stood by, speaking softly. Okay, arrange for people to go to the main territory tomorrow. And bring back some household items for the residents. Feng Hao spoke again. The standard of living in the pigmen village wasn't high, given its nature as a small village. After Feng Hao obliterated the Fireblade tribe, he garnered thousands of sets of wooden beds and various furniture pieces. He sold some in the regional channel but still had leftovers. He planned to give these items to Pigmen Village, which could improve their living environment. Upon hearing Feng Hao's words, Petty and the others looked bewildered. They quickly responded, oh, okay, I'll arrange for people to go first thing in the morning. Alright, that's it for now. I'm leaving. After saying this, Feng Hao immediately dropped the god's present state. The uncontrolled skeleton's soul fire in its pupils was extinguished. After standing still for 2 seconds, it walked straight toward the direction of the Pigmen village, returning to its original position. Clan leader, what does the Lord mean by this? An older pig-headed human asked, puzzled. Petty hurriedly waved his hand in dismissal and softly called, Bolton. Bolton immediately stepped forward. Clan leader. Right, Bolton, you will take people to the main territory first thing tomorrow morning. To collect the household items that the Lord mentioned. Yes, clan leader. Bolton nodded in understanding. Alright, let's go back then. Petty quietly said, leading the rest of the pigmen back to the village. After dropping the god's present state, Feng Hao woke up from bed. He opened the window and looked at the sky outside. It was gradually getting darker. In a world without computers and smartphones, it was about the right time to go to bed. He wasn't sure whether or not it was a result of consuming the magic potion. In his original world, he was popular amongst mosquitoes. But in this world, he no longer had that concern. Even if mosquitoes appeared, he showed no signs of being bitten. Knock, knock, knock. The door was tapped lightly. Master, you're up. It's hot today, would you like me to prepare bath water for you? Era's voice rang out from outside the door. This was due to her hearing Feng Hao's movements and coming to remind him. Feng Hao thought a little. A bath sounded rather good. Alright, go ahead, as you wish, master. Please wait a moment. The sound of Era's footsteps faded away. Soon after, when Feng Hao descended the stairs and arrived at the bathroom, warm water had already been prepared in the bathtub. Feng Hao shed his clothes and comfortably sank into the tub. Ah, this is great. Indeed, it must be said, Era was very thoughtful. The water temperature was perfect. The bathroom filled with a faint steam. Creak. The bathroom door opened, and Era, wearing a simple tube top and shorts, walked in. Her snow-white skin, beaded with droplets of mist, appeared even more translucent and lustrous. Master, let me help you cleanse your body. As she said this, she stood by the tub, scrubbing Feng Hao's back. Feng Hao didn't utter a word, just enjoyed the gentle motions of the young girl. Both of them were clear about it, the relationship between a master and a servant in this era. The intimate atmosphere continued for quite a while. After Feng Hao had finished bathing, Era served him by helping him dress, her face flushed. Early the next day, Feng Hao was awakened by a knock on the door. Come in. Era opened the door and said, Master, Mr. Bolton has arrived with his people. Oh, they've come so early. Feng Hao said, yawning and stretching. Era walked into the room where she helped Feng Hao to dress properly. Master, what would you like for breakfast? Era asked softly. Something simple would do. Feng Hao replied. All right. With what had transpired the previous night, Era attended to Feng Hao without the previous restraint and shyness. Their relationship had become much closer. After getting dressed and finishing his washing, Feng Hao walked directly into the manor house. From a distance, he saw Bolton leading a group of pig-headed humans, all waiting on a bench. Upon seeing Feng Hao, they hurriedly stood and bowed. Good morning, Lord. Era invited Bolton and his men to wait in the hall. However, the pigmen chose to wait outside, for the Lord to awaken from his slumber. All right, let's go to the warehouse and see what you all need. Fang Hao yawned and led the group towards the warehouse. Bolton nodded and led the other pigmen to follow closely behind Fang Hao. Thanks to Fang Hao's favorable impression of Bolton, his status in the pigmen village had risen significantly. Outside of the village's clan leader and several elders, Bolton had the highest prestige. Plus, Fang Hao's domain was truly intimidating. Outside and within his domain, barring the bunny girl they'd just seen, all that moved were well-equipped skeleton bones. This made the pigmen, who were already terrified of Fang Hao, even more apprehensive and cautious. After passing through several buildings, they arrived at a large open space enclosed by a fence. The open space was stacked with a variety of scavenged items as well as a massive amount of basic resources. Those beds and furniture there, I believe they're better than yours. Load them up, and you can take them later, Fang Hao pointed out. Bolton and the others stared at the scene before them, their eyes wide. To collect so much furniture, how many tribes had their lord annihilated? Upon further thought, their decision to surrender and pledge allegiance was indeed a wise one. Thank you, Lord. Bolton and the others expressed their gratitude and started to load the items onto the cart. By the way, have you guys already had breakfast? Would you like me to have breakfast prepared for you? Fang Hao continued to ask. We've already eaten, thank you for your concern, Lord, Bolton promptly answered. They hadn't slept until now like Fang Hao. The journey from the pigmen village to Fang Hao's domain took a few hours' travel. They'd already eaten breakfast and set out from the village at the crack of dawn. Fang Hao nodded, allowing them to load the items onto their carts themselves. After Fang Hao finished his breakfast, Bolton came over again. First he gave a small nod to Era, then walked over to Fang Hao's side. Sir, the clan leader asked me to share some intel with you. Bolton began standing by Fang Hao's side. What kind of intel? Let's have it. Fang Hao started to feel curious. He just contacted Petty the day before, but didn't hear anything about any intel. Yet in the morning, a message was delivered. This is it. To the west of the village, there's a site held by a group of powerful elemental creatures, Bolton said, and then carefully observed Fang Hao, checking to see whether he was interested. Surely enough, upon hearing the news, a gleam shot through Fang Hao's pupils. The news of the site was quite tempting for Fang Hao as he viewed it as a unique wilderness location. Keep talking, Fang Hao said. There's nothing more. Nothing more? How many monsters are there and what kind are they? Fang Hao proceeded to ask more questions. Bolton stroked his fat chin and continued. The creatures are all elemental beings, ranging from Tier 4 to Tier 5, and quite a handful in number. Fang Hao fell into contemplation. Elemental creatures were scarce in this world. Up to now, Fang Hao had only encountered a lost wood servant spirit, which was a type of wood element creature. But wood servant spirits were summoned creatures that would completely lose their way upon the death of their masters and start attacking any nearby creatures that came by at random. Fang Hao eventually triumphed over them with his skeleton army and wiped them out. Do you have a map? Fang Hao inquired. Bolton still shook his head. No, but I can find the way. Very well, once you're done loading, we will set off together. We will first visit the village, and then the site as you've mentioned. Fang Hao immediately made up his mind. Gradually expanding his territory was his plan from the very beginning. As he heard about the site from Bolton, he decided to explore it first and see if there were any special artifacts to be discovered. Are we heading out today? Bolton was somewhat surprised. Don't they need to prepare for the creatures in the site? Is there any issue? Fang Hao responded with a question. Oh, no, none at all. I will urge them to speed up, Bolton said and ran over to the warehouse again. He urged the pigmen who were loading the furniture to speed up their work. After Bolton's departure, Fang Hao started to prepare for the upcoming fight. As there have been no major battles recently, he had not employed the 100-fold amplification to expand his forces. This time, he had to be ready. He first arrived at the skeleton conversion field to recruit skeleton trolls. He had unlocked Tier 5 forces the previous day and planned to test their might today. Due to the increase to Tier 5, The resources spent on raising the number of forces also increased proportionally. Recruitment of skeleton trolls, Wriggling Spine 5, Death Trace 2, Trollstone 1, the system notified. Feng Hao increased the number of recruitment to 11. The 100-fold amplification was activated, recruiting 1111 skeleton trolls. With a sudden glow, 1111 tall skeleton trolls appeared before Feng Hao, even when his territory had expanded significantly. The appearance of these 3-meter-tall trolls still made his territory seem much more crowded. Skeleton trolls were Tier 5 forces, and also the strongest close combat forces Feng Hao had on hand. Next, Feng Hao crafted 1111 axes for the skeleton trolls. The only pity was that the plate armor provided by the Taurens didn't fit the massive bodies of the trolls. Otherwise, after equipping the metal armor, their combat power would have increased exponentially. "Sir, we're done. We can set off now." Bolton and the others approached and saw the thousands of giant axe-wielding skeletons, their mouths agape. He was unsure how so many gigantic skeleton soldiers appeared, while he was away from Feng Hao for just a while. The sense of oppression and death these tall and robust skeletons exuded several times that of ordinary skeletons. Just by looking at them, the feeling of being engulfed by the aura of death was overwhelming. "All right, let's set off," Feng Hao said. "Yes, sir," Bolton said, and then quickly led the troops, leaving the territory ahead of everyone else. Feng Hao let the soldiers go ahead while he stayed behind to briefly arrange the situation with Era. He would leave 20,000 soldiers with Era. To protect the territory, they should suffice. Within the nearby regions, there was no power that posed a threat to his territory. Feng Hao was confident about this. After reminding them of the measures, Feng Hao then followed the main army out of the city, heading towards Pigmen village. This time, Feng Hao brought along 1,100 skeleton trolls, 20,000 skeleton soldiers, and pikemen. His mighty army left the territory in great pomp. All the beasts they encountered along the way scattered and fled. 3 hours later, the army reached Pigmen village. Seeing trucks of furniture being unloaded, the pigmen all wore joyous expressions on their faces. These furniture pieces were far superior to what they owned in their homes. "Sir, you came in person?" Petty came out to greet Feng Hao. "I'm planning to visit the site. I kept the main army away from the village to avoid causing panic," Feng Hao said softly. Bolton quickly leaned into Petty's ear and whispered something. "That many?" Petty exclaimed in surprise. Apparently, Bolton had shared with Petty about the forces Feng Hao brought along, leaving her utterly shocked. After her shock, Petty quickly composed herself. Looking at Feng Hao, she asked, "Sir, what do you need me to do?" "I don't need the pigmen's help for the battle. But I do need a quiet room where I am not disturbed by anyone," Feng Hao replied. Upon hearing that the pigmen were not needed for the battle, both Petty and Bolton breathed a sigh of relief. They were truly afraid of Feng Hao using them as cannon fodder. Fortunately, all he needed was a room. "There's a vacant room in the clan leader's office. It's quiet and no one will disturb you," Petty told him. "Good, lead me there, Bolton. Get ready to lead the way once I return." "As you command, sir." Feng Hao followed Petty into a vacant room. The room was squeaky clean, but it had been a while since anyone had lived there. "Sir, this is my old room. It's been empty for a while. Do you need anything else?" Petty explained. This was her previous room. When she took over as clan leader, she moved into the main bedroom and left this room vacant. "No need, go and inform the villagers that anyone approaching here will face attack from the skeleton soldiers," Feng Hao gave another reminder. "Oh, I'll go and tell them right away," Petty, sensing the severity in Feng Hao's voice, quickly nodded to show she understood. Petty left to tell the villagers not to approach the clan leader's office. The skeleton soldiers who were stationed in Pigmen village split into groups of 500 and surrounded the entire building of the clan leader's office. In case of a battle, the skeletons could hold them off for a while, allowing Feng Hao to awaken instantly. Everything was handled properly. Feng Hao then lay down on the bed and entered the state of God's presence. God's presence target, skeleton soldier, compatibility 88%. After possessing a skeleton soldier, Feng Hao strode out of the hall. As soon as he stepped out, he saw Bolton patiently waiting. Bolton, we can set off now. Bolton had a strong talent for leading the way. Without needing to look at any map, he could remember every location clearly. He remembered clearly where detours were needed and where monster strongholds were located. After leaving Pigmen Village, the large team headed west. They crossed through forests and mountain valleys. The disturbed wild beasts let out a few roars of anger, then left. They avoided this army composed of bones. Finally, in the long march, the team entered the ruins. A clear isolation zone was formed between the city ruins and the forest. Behind them was a lush forest. In front, however, was a barren waste where nothing grew. In the distance, they could see a city ruin. Most of the city wall had collapsed, and among the rubble and rotting wood, a few weeds were growing, adding some green to the pale gray scene. "Sir, we have entered the ruins," one Bolton said. Fang Hao also knew that this was the ruins. After all, he was not blind. He could see the difference between here and the outside world. "Where are the elemental creatures you mentioned?" Fang Hao asked curiously. He looked around, but didn't see any elemental creatures. He didn't even see a single mouse. "Sir, when we get closer, they will appear," one Bolton quickly replied. Fang Hao nodded. He pointed at a lucky skeleton soldier and ordered, "Go, scout ahead." The skeleton soldier walked out of the team and strode forward. About 200 meters in, a layer of mist suddenly rose from the ground. The mist wrapped around the scouting skeleton. Fang Hao narrowed his eyes, closely observing the mist. Just then, zizz! In the mist, several flashes of lightning, like electric currents, struck the scouting skeleton. Its body flew backward, and by the time it landed, it had become a scattering of bones. Killed in one hit. A sense of heaviness immediately filled Fang Hao's heart. Even when they encountered a level 7 ogre, a skeleton soldier wearing plate armor could withstand a strike. However, it was killed instantly by the creature in the mist. "Attack, kill them," Fang Hao immediately ordered. The creatures in the mist were powerful, but their numbers were not high. Fang Hao's battle style was quite straightforward. For him, the strong prey upon the weak, and the many terrorize the few. As for tactics and ingenious strategies, he did not need them at the moment. Tens of thousands of skeleton soldiers and 1,100 skeleton ogres ran past Fang Hao and Bolton, with the sound of crunching bones and clashing armor filling the battlefield. A sea of gleaming skeletons charged at the mist. Z's brilliant arcs of lighting shot from the mist, constantly striking the skeletons. Fortunately, the skeleton ogres were enormous and only suffered some impacts, not being killed instantly. On the contrary, the normal skeleton soldiers could not withstand such impacts. They were killed with a single strike. Soon, the skeleton army charged into the mist. The tide of the army pushed out the creatures inside the mist. They appeared in Fang Hao's line of sight. Air Elemental, 5th Order. Description: the remnants of the magic dust settled and agglomerated to produce an air elemental. In a favorable environment, it will display extraordinary and frightful power. The air elemental looked as though it was made of collected clouds. The upper half of its body had a human-like silhouette, while the lower half looked like floating mist. It resembled the scene of Aladdin's genie in its entrance in a cartoon series. "It's an air elemental." This wasn't something Fang Hao had expected. He had assumed that elemental creatures, based on his use of the wood spirits, would follow the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The occurrence of an air elemental, it made him reconsider his original beliefs. Perhaps this world doesn't conform to conventional notions. Boom, boom, boom. The air elementals engaged in fierce combat with the skeleton ogres. Fortunately, air elementals were also living entities, not an elusive mist. When attacked by a giant axe, they too would get hurt and cry out in painful roars. Sizzle. Off in the distance, an air elemental is relentlessly forced out of the fog by 5 skeleton trolls. Its gaseous arm points, and a lightning bolt hits one of them before immediately spreading to 2 others. Like a serpent made of electricity, the 3 struck skeleton ogres stiffened slightly, and from where they were hit, white smoke began to rise. However, the skeleton ogres only sustained some damage, raising their war axes, striking at the body of the air elemental overhead. The 5 war axes repeatedly fell, completely annihilating the air elemental. It turned into a plume of smoke which gradually dissipated in the air. The battle was still ongoing. Roar! When the last air elemental was completely destroyed. The fog obscuring the view around them also gradually cleared. Are there any other creatures? Feng Hao asked Bolton, who stood beside him. I don't know, we've been blocked out by these air elementals. Bolton immediately answered. They couldn't even eliminate these air elementals, so naturally. They had no idea whether there were any other monsters inside. Feng Hao nodded and ordered the skeleton soldiers to search the surrounding area for any treasure chests or other spoils of war. Before long, a skeleton soldier came striding over, carrying a silver treasure chest. With a bang, it was tossed in front of Feng Hao. Seeing the treasure chest, Feng Hao's mood improved somewhat. He hasn't even entered the ruined city and already he has acquired a treasure chest. Opening the treasure chest. Obtain. Mist Enshrouded Skill Scroll, Air Elemental Summoning Skill Scroll, Trace of the Sky 2, 87 Warfire Coins. There were a total of 3 rewards. 2 of them were Air Elemental Magic. This almost caused Feng Hao to jump up in excitement. Since he had taken the Magic Revelation Potion, he was able to learn various magic skills. This time, he acquired 2 more kinds of magic, which enhanced his ability to defend himself. Currently speaking, with the 100-fold enhancement, the strength of his territory is not weak. As long as Feng Hao had time to gather his forces, he could compete with all the forces around his territory. But the weakness is also very obvious. His personal strength was too weak. In the face of assassination or other targeted tactics, he would struggle to respond. Therefore, strengthening himself, enhancing his skill to increase his survival rate, was equally crucial to the development of his territory. These 2 skills happened to be what he needed. He suppressed his excitement and began to check the rewards he acquired. Mist Wrap. Category: Air Elemental Magic. Level 3 Magic. Ability: the mist will cover the battlefield, reducing the enemy's field of vision by 75% and morale by 15%. Description: ready for a game of hide and seek? Toy with your opponent in the mist, unable to distinguish friend from foe within 3 meters. This skill is identical to the mist that Feng Hao had just witnessed. It doesn't seem to have the same effect as before. In the previous situation, the density of the cloud and fog was such that only when the air elemental was forced out could the creatures inside the fog be seen. But this skill scroll seems to have greatly reduced that ability. He continued to the next skill scroll. Elemental Guard, Air. Elemental Guard, Air. Category: Skills. With no elemental physique, this skill cannot be learned. Ability: summons 2 air elemental attendants to fight in tandem for a duration of 30 minutes. Description: war is never fought alone. Use the natural energy around you, summon attendants to launch attacks on the enemy. This was Feng Hao's second summoning skill. The first one summoned wood attendants, this time it is air attendants. He wonders whether all of them can be summoned at the same time. He secured all the loot. Feng Hao turned to Bolton again. Bolton, wait for us here. As you command, sir. Bolton immediately responded. He didn't want to enter into the ruins, and now that Feng Hao asked him to stay behind, he felt a sense of relief. Of course, Feng Hao has his own motives. He himself has secrets he doesn't want others to know, and Bolton wasn't exactly helpful moving forward either. Better to have him wait here, making both parties feel more at ease. Okay, let's continue to move forward. Feng Hao waved his hand, and the skeleton army marched on in unison, stepping towards the ruined city. Traveling along the mud-covered road, they crossed the desolate city gate and entered the city. The city was in ruins, with the remaining towering stone walls teetering, and the eye could only see debris and rotten beams. Looking at the scene in front of him, Feng Hao has the feeling that the city has been bombed. Whoosh! Just then, a fireball flies in from a distance. Bang! The fireball hit a skeleton, the explosion flung its body into the air. Its metal armor was dented, leaving black burn marks behind. Feng Hao got startled, and immediately looked in the direction of the attack. There can be seen elemental creatures engulfed with flames, roaming in abundance amidst the rubble in the distance. Fire Elemental, Tier 6. Description: Aggressive fire elementals, born from the fury of elemental magic, if you anger them. Be prepared to endure a scorching inferno. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More and more fire elementals emerge, occupying the entire city. One after another, searing fireballs flew towards the skeleton army. Kill, Feng Hao coldly ordered, and the entire skeleton army immediately fanned out, attacking the continually appearing fire elementals. Feng Hao himself also drew his iron sword. After dodging a rapidly shot fireball, he charged directly at the fire elemental. Approaching, he immediately unleashed a shield strike. The iron-wrapped shield directly struck the fire elemental on its head. Flames fluttered from the elemental's body, but it didn't seem to be stunned. Feng Hao dodged the elemental's counterattack by lowering his head and swiftly swung his sword twice in succession. 2 sword marks appeared on the fiery body. Simultaneously, the skeletons by Feng Hao's side continuously wielded their weapons, inflicting persistent damage on the fire elemental. Boom! Another fireball flies. Feng Hao immediately raised his shield to block. The fireball hit the shield. Its immense force caused him to stumble back a few steps before regaining his balance. He quickly moved forward, continuing to engage with the fire elemental in front of him. Having understood the attack method of the fire elemental, a cold laugh flashed in Feng Hao's heart, thinking it was no big deal. The second he thought that, Feng Hao suddenly discovered a ring of fire suddenly appeared beneath his feet, just as he wanted to move. From the center of the ring, a pillar of flame surged upward, swallowing him and other 2 skeleton soldiers. Feng Hao sat up on the bed. Taking a look at his surroundings, he confirmed that the skeleton he had been controlling is deceased. Taking a deep breath, he immediately reinitiated the God's Presence ritual. Once again possessing the body of a skeleton soldier, he rejoined the battlefield. The recent Ring of Fire was apparently a fire elemental's ability. Occasionally appearing, it burned the only Tier 1 skeleton soldiers directly into ashes. However, this circle of fire ability didn't inflict as much damage to the skeleton trolls. On the contrary, these trolls, adept at fighting, made the enemy constantly retreat. Bang! With a single stroke of his sword, Feng Hao completely annihilated the fire elemental before him. The rest of the battles were also gradually coming to an end. With the numerical advantage of the skeleton army and the existence of a 5th-tier skeleton troll, several hundred fire elementals were quickly annihilated. Feng Hao was just about to give the order to clear the battlefield. Swoosh! A magic arrow engulfed in flames was aimed directly at him. Bang! Feng Hao instinctively raised his shield, blocking the fireball. The magic arrow shattered before him, turning into scattered sparks. Suddenly looking to the side, he saw a mummified corpse wrapped in tattered robes, quietly chanting a spell. Restless Mage, Tier 7. Description: Natural mages are the world's top scholars. Their spiritual power, far exceeding that of ordinary people, prevents them from resting even in death. Their fragmented souls trapped in their bodies, wandering aimlessly. This long-dead mage hadn't undergone a professional or traditional mummification process. With every movement, dried and wrinkled skin fell off his face like sand. The state of decay of his body was hindering his movements. Despite his powerful magic power or ability to delay body decomposition, in a few decades, this body would be completely decayed. Seeing him chant another spell, Feng Hao immediately ordered, "Quick, kill him." These deceased mages were merely undead. Who knew what major attack the next spell might incite? The closest skeleton soldiers charged towards the undead mage. It seemed the mage had sensed this. His chanting faltered slightly, and he promptly summoned 4 fire elemental souls in an attempt to block the advancing skeleton soldiers. But the 4 fire elementals weren't nearly enough to oppose the numerous skeleton army. Within moments of coming into contact, before they could unleash a simple fireball, they were either killed by a flurry of swords or chopped by a chaotic axe. The undead mage, upon seeing the abrupt annihilation of his summoned souls, began to retreat while ceasing his spell chants. "Kill him," Feng Hao urged once more. There could be a potential danger here. The skeleton soldiers lunged towards the retreating undead mage. Apparently, both the close combat ability and defense of this mage weren't too high. Each iron sword stabbed into his body, completely killing him. When the already decaying body was violently filled with sharp swords, it, bang, burst into a cloud of dust and decayed particles, not even leaving a corpse behind. Damn it, where's the corpse? Feng Hao cursed. I just wanted your bodies, dying without leaving a corpse behind, isn't that a bit too much? With a sigh, he gave another order: search for the loot. Avoid approaching the building up ahead. While there seemed to be no immediate danger, a reasonably intact stone tower up ahead gave Feng Hao a feeling of unease. Sure enough, the loot was quickly scavenged. The slain fire elementals had dropped some materials. Violent Marks 3, Red Flame Essence 12. Besides these, there was also a silver treasure chest. He opened the chest directly. Obtained: Fire Arrow Skill Scroll, Beast Taming Contract, Green, Tailor Shop Blueprint, Warfire Coins plus 7-2. A skill scroll should be quite valuable. Every time a skill scroll appeared, it would automatically raise the level of the loot chest. After opening the treasure chest, Feng Hao ordered the skeleton soldiers to perform a thorough search. But the city had been abandoned for too long, and all sorts of items had already been worn away by time, leaving nothing behind. Finding nothing, Feng Hao began to regroup the troops. The damaged equipment in the skeletons' hands was replaced with that of their dead comrades. After 2 fights in a row, the skeleton army had achieved significant victories. But the casualties were also substantial. From this, Feng Hao saw the shortcomings within the team. They lacked ranged units, although he could force the skeleton soldiers to switch to light crossbows. Their stiff and slow actions required Feng Hao's personal command on the sideline. It was a desperate measure in a desperate situation. After regrouping, the team continued to push forward. Ahead was a well-preserved building, a towering stone tower, only the top of which had collapsed, littered with gray tiles and decayed timber. The mottled stone walls still towered, appearing solid as ever. The stone tower was located in the center of the city, and combined with its unique design, it should have been a lord's mansion or some sort of administrative building. Upon reaching the stone tower, Feng Hao exhaled: "You guys, and you others, come in with me." There was not enough room inside the stone tower to accommodate the entire skeleton army. So, Feng Hao selected 5 skeleton trolls and 10 skeleton soldiers. Considering the large size of the skeleton trolls, they were asked to wait at the entrance of the stone tower, where the space was relatively cramped. The outer door of the stone tower was already decayed and cracked, and it collapsed with the rotting wood as it was pushed open. Despite the countless years that have passed, the interior of the stone tower still depicted its past magnificence and splendor. The carvings on the stone bricks, the rotten desks, carpets, and the rusty, teetering nightstone chandelier overhead. This city must have once had its own glory. It is unknown what caused it to become a ruin. Clang, as Feng Hao was investigating the room and looking for anything he could take, several undead mages walked out of the other rooms of the tower, knocking over the lampstand on the table and making a clear sound. As soon as they came out, they targeted Feng Hao and the others, converging various magics and attacking them. Boom! A thud. A water magic arrow hit hard against the shield in hand. Feng Hao felt a tremendous force and involuntarily tilted backward. Boom, boom, boom. The rest of the skeleton soldiers were also subjected to attacks. For a moment, the already decayed furniture was in complete chaos. Wood chips flying everywhere, and chairs shattering. "Kill them," said Feng Hao, his gaze slightly cold as he gave his direct order. The skeleton soldiers launched an attack, raising their shields and charging at the undead mages. Boom, boom, boom. Magic spells were released one after another, summoning one magic servant after another. A fierce battle ensued with the rushing skeletons. The intense battle attracted the hidden undead mages from upstairs. The skeleton army did likewise. Only a part of the skeleton soldiers who could enter the tower formed the army, and there were constantly skeletons rushing in from the outside, joining the battle incessantly. Feng Hao held his iron sword, cutting down a summoning ghost, and rushed to the undead mage. The iron sword turned into a flash of cold light, slashing down the opponent's raised arm. The arm's muscles were rotten, exposing the white bones. With one slash of the sword, the entire arm was cut off, disrupting the casting of the magic. The cut end exposed dried, grayish-white flesh, without a drop of blood. The undead mage looked a bit puzzled at his severed arm, then again raised his left hand to start casting. Crack! Feng Hao swung his sword twice more, cutting off the left hand again. Having lost both arms, the undead mage fell into a brief state of confusion. Unable to cast spells calmly, the undead mage struggled to retaliate effectively. Ultimately, Feng Hao and the skeleton soldiers managed to slay the undead mage with their overwhelming attacks. The mage's magic was highly damaging, but when enemies got close, they proved powerless. This was especially true against the skeleton army, who were experts in group combat and nearly impossible to defend against. Once they closed in, they would surround and attack. One man, one sword, could reduce an undead mage to a bloodied mess. By the second round of attacks, it would be eliminated. The skeleton army battled their way up the stairs until they had completely annihilated all the undead mages. Some of you checked the upper floors for any remaining enemies, everyone else, put out the fire. After the battle ended, Feng Hao commanded loudly. Among the mages were a handful of fire elemental mages, who had set fire to anything combustible in the room with their repeated fire magic spells. Much of the furniture within the stone tower had been constructed from decaying wood that instantly ignited upon contact with fire magic, causing red flames to cable up quickly. The fire spread rapidly. These mages were dead, unable to feel the threat of the flames. Yet Feng Hao and the skeletons were the same, unafraid of death. They had fought through the fire until now. Only after the conflict had been resolved did they start to put out the fire. Unignited combustibles were thrown outside, preventing the fire from spreading further. Luckily, the ground floor was a large hall, and there wasn't much combustible material to begin with. After burning for a while, combined with the effort to extinguish it, the fire was finally brought under control. That's when the skeletons that had gone up to check for enemies came down, proving that there were no enemies left on the upper floors. If there were any enemies left, they would have already started fighting. Bring down the chandelier and take the nightstone. We're going to grift every room, commanded Feng Hao. Proceeding leisurely, he ordered the skeletons to move anything useful to the outside, directing them as he walked. Without a stop, he quickly made his way to the third level. Upon entering the largest room, he saw a set of white bones draped in a robe, seated on a wicker recliner. Its body sprawled weakly on the chair, resembling a long dead corpse. Another boss? Feng Hao instinctively took a step backward. However, a second later, he dismissed his initial thought. Elder Mage's skeleton. Type. Remains. Description. Internal strife led the city towards destruction. Former allies turned into enemies. The elderly leader, powerless to change things, heard the cries from outside the window and slowly ended his own life. When the target was displayed as a skeleton, it indicated the opponent was already deceased. According to the description, it seemed the city hadn't been invaded from the outside, but instead had experienced infighting. After confirming there was no danger, Feng Hao walked right into the room. Behind the reclining chair was a dilapidated desk, its books long rotted and torn. Only a long, tawny leather box was still intact. He dusted off the box, unlocked the latch, and slowly lifted the lid. Suddenly, a surge of red energy burst forth, flooding the entire room. Upon examining the item in the box, Feng Hao's eyes lit up. It was a magic wand. Holy shit, it's beautiful. Feng Hao whispered in awe. The wand was exquisitely crafted. The wooden handle was engraved with intricate patterns, and a giant red gemstone was nestled at the top. If one looked closely at the gemstone, it seemed as if there was a flame burning within. Starfire, purple. Category: Wand. Ability: Starfire. Description: Life is fragile. It can't withstand even a hint of starfire. Starfire summons a meteor to fall, triggering an explosion where it lands. Feng Hao held the magic wand, elation filling his heart. This trip was indeed not in vain, yielding a fine piece of purple equipment. Having drank the magic revelation potion, Feng Hao's body began to accept and sense magic elements more easily. If there were no other circumstances, Feng Hao might well embark on the path of a magic summoner. And this purple magic wand would be perfect for him. After the excitement, Feng Hao turned his attention to the bones lying nearby. Move the skeleton outside. 2 skeletons approached to lift the bone remains from the vine chair. But just as the surface contact started, the body crumbled like powder, leaving only the skull leaning against the back of the vine chair, now integrated with it. Alas, Feng Hao sighed faintly. There are requirements for transformation, and the most important is the integrity of the body. It is not enough to just retrieve a part, or a piece of a limb, to carry out transformation. Bury the skeleton along with the vine chair in the courtyard. At the back of the stone tower, there is a rather large courtyard. Since the deceased had been obsessed with this city and life, it should be their wish to remain here. The 2 skeletons didn't attempt to touch the remaining skull this time, but moved it out together with the vine chair. All right, search each room to see if there are any valuable items, Feng Hao commanded his other skeletons. The skeletons quickly scattered, conducting a room-by-room search. Soon, a gold treasure chest was tossed in front of Feng Hao. Could it be another mage skill? Thinking this, he directly opened the treasure chest. With a flash of light, the reward appeared. Received: blueprints for Mage Tower, Timber Processing Plant, Root Magic Wand. Pages from the Elemental Codex, 50 mithril, and 142 Warfire coins. One flash of light after another invited astonishment from Feng Hao. Him receiving the Starfire Wand had already given him a huge surprise. The emergence of so many blueprints now was like icing on the cake. He had received gold chests before, but compared with these rewards, whatever was inside those chests was far less superior. Whether in terms of grade or practicality, one could say that this relic exploration was more than worth it. He started inspecting the rewards from the chest. Mage Tower Blueprints, Blue. Category: Building Blueprints. Construction Materials: 3,500 wood, 2,200 stones, 320 leather, 400 hemp ropes, 120 mithril, 20 perfect essence. Description: consume faction items to recruit a ranged mage class. Upon seeing this blueprint, the soul fire in Feng Hao's pupils flickered slightly. This was exactly what he needed. A building that could recruit long-range troops. After recruiting mages, he could remedy the absence of long-range units in his army, making it more diversified. He then looked at the second blueprint. Timber Processing Factory Blueprint, Green. Category: Building Blueprints. Required materials: 2,800 wood, 800 stones, 550 straw, 320 leather, 400 hemp ropes, 85 metal parts. Description: through synthesis and processing, the wood that has been mined can be made into harder and sturdier tough wood. Good gracious. There it was, the last required material for upgrading the Lord's territory had finally appeared. For the 5th level Lord's Hall, not only are stone bricks required but also tough wood. Prior to this, Feng Hao had always assumed that tough wood was also made from a blueprint, and could be produced once he had the blueprint. Now it seems that tough wood requires factory processing, and isn't as simple as just using the Book of Lords to make it. But that's fine, after returning Feng Hao can arrange for people to get down to processing. There should be ample manpower in his territory. Wooden Wand Blueprint, Green. Category: Wand. Materials required: sturdy wood 1, iron 1, essence of magic 2, mithril 2. Description: a general-purpose magic wand made from a variety of materials. It is effective in amplifying magic. Not bad at all, but it's far less impressive compared to his own wand. In terms of both properties and appearance, the Starfire excels. That shimmering flame gem, as big as half a fist, exudes an aura of wealth wherever it goes. Elemental Scripture Fragment. Category: torn pages of the scripture. Ability: damage plus 1% for air, earth, water, fire elemental magic, number of summoned spirits plus 1. Description: ancient scripture fragment. Collecting all fragments will yield the complete scripture's magic. Peculiar treasures are plentiful. Another chapter fragment of the scripture popped up. Why are the people of this world so shaky, tearing up good stuff into pieces? Feng Hao sorted everything and then walked down from the stone tower directly. He looked at the sky. It was probably around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. He had been busy since the morning when he set off from his territory. The other skeletons located in the stone tower and various corners of the city also found numerous resources. Iron, copper, and other durable materials, as well as rare materials such as mithril and essence of magic, were collected. These mages seemed to have collected these rare materials. All of them were moved out. Additional nightstones disassembled from the stone tower. And assorted silver and copper items were also collected. Only after everything was sorted did Fang Hao wave his hand, letting everyone return with the loot. Bolton, who seemed half asleep, looked completely surprised when he saw them return loaded with goods. After identifying the skeleton possessed by Fang Hao, he immediately stepped forward. "Sir, you've returned." "Yes, let's go back to the pigmen village." Fang Hao then led the large group towards the pigmen village. They all hurried along with their heads down, moving faster than when they came. Soon, the pigmen village was in sight. Outside the village, a few pigmen were gathering resources. As soon as the village was in sight, Fang Hao issued a forward command to all of the skeleton soldiers. He himself then deactivated the god's presence and woke up in his room. After stepping outside, he directed the 500 skeleton soldiers guarding the door to return to their respective posts. "Lord, you have come out." Seeing Fang Hao, Petty walked over. "Yes, this time's loot. I have reserved a nightstone chandelier for you." Fang Hao replied as he walked outside. Nightstone is not any ordinary stone. As per the market price, it's quite expensive. Most forces prefer to use candles, as natural ores like nightstone are difficult to purchase. "Oh, thank you, sir." Petty immediately thanked him. The two of them then arrived at the entrance of the village. From a distance, they saw the densely packed skeleton army rapidly approaching. "Prepare the cart," Fang Hao ordered. "Oh, all right." In no time, the skeleton army arrived at the village entrance. The skeletons carrying the loot deposited their goods in the village warehouse, while the rest of the skeletons were stationed outside the village. Fang Hao picked up the obtained skill scrolls and blueprints for his personal study and also for the Book of Lords collection. Successfully learned skills: Mist Wrap, Elemental Guardian, Air, Fire Arrow. Book of Lords included blueprints: Tailor Shop Construction Blueprint, Mage Tower Construction Blueprint, Timber Processing Factory Construction Blueprint, Wooden Wand Crafting Blueprint. Book of Lords Special Collection: Taming Contract, Green, Elemental Scripture Fragment. Beams of light flickered and merged with his body and the Book of Lords. He collected all the blueprints. Apart from a few items kept for the pigmen village, all the loot was loaded onto the cart, ready to be taken back to his territory. Meanwhile, Fang Hao, accompanied by Petty, headed towards the interior of the pigmen village. He planned to construct a stone processing factory and a wood processing factory here. In this way, the production speed of bricks and hardy wood could be increased. Stone processing factory: wood 2,200, stone 1,800, thatch 550, leather 320, hemp rope 400. He discussed the construction site with Petty, and then began the construction in a vacant area at the corner of the village. 10 minutes later, the stone processing factory was completed. Then Fang Hao continued to build the wood processing factory. Wood processing factory: wood 2,800, stone 800, thatch 550, leather 320, hemp rope 400, metal parts 85. Another 10 minutes of construction time. A wood processing factory was completed. Wood processing factory. Placement: workers 0/5-1. Raw materials: wood 2, wood enhancer 1. Production: hardy wood. Description: through synthesis processing, the harvested wood can be made into tougher and firmer hardy wood. The wood processing factory was also completed. The production of hardy wood required an additional raw material: wood enhancer. The name seemed familiar. It seemed like he had the blueprint. He immediately opened the Book of Lords to look it up. Indeed, after flipping through several pages, he found the wood enhancer. Wood enhancer: bone powder 5, tree sap 4, water 1. Description: a material that makes the wood board tougher. Bone powder can be made by grinding beast bones. Tree sap is a resource that occasionally appears when harvesting trees. There is also a certain amount of stock in the warehouse, enough for him to manufacture a lot. He set the production quantity to 50. Make multiplier triggered, gained wood enhancer 5050. A large amount of wood enhancer appeared on the vacant ground. Assign people to process them, the village will need a lot of bricks and hardy wood when upgrading in the future. Feng Hao instructed softly. Feng Hao's territory needed these materials. The pigmen village will also need these materials for future upgrades. Increasing the production speed was also good for the development of the pigmen village. Okay, thank you, sir, I will arrange the manpower immediately. Happiness appeared on Petty's face. The pigmen village was relatively backward. Before Feng Hao came, the village had not been upgraded or expanded. This was not because they didn't want to expand but because they lacked the ability and resources. Now that there is an opportunity to continue upgrading and developing, Petty was naturally overjoyed. Feng Hao nodded and didn't say much more. After taking another round in the village, Feng Hao led the team back to his territory.
A few hours later,
the large group finally returned to the territory, and the spoils of war were sorted and sent to the warehouse. Master, you're back. Era came out to greet him. Put this in my room. Feng Hao handed the magic wand to Era. Wow, it's so beautiful, Era exclaimed as she took it with both hands. Her small hand caressed the red gem at the top, which was barely wrapped in her hand. The gemstone is still warm. Feng Hao gave a slight smile, coughed lightly. It's called Starfire, it's a fire attribute magic wand. When he first saw the magic wand, his expression and thoughts were almost the same as Era's. After all, he had been tinkering with it for half a day and wasn't as surprised as he was at the beginning. Master, you're really impressive, this magic wand must be very expensive. Era said, still with a look of shock on her face. It should be quite valuable. Oh, Era held the magic wand, observing it as she took it upstairs to Feng Hao's room. After Era left, Feng Hao continued on to the military zone. He wanted to build the newly acquired blueprint in the military zone, the Mage Tower. After the blueprint was recorded in Feng Hao's Book of Lords, it became the Undead Mage Tower. Undead Mage Tower. Wood 3,500, stone 2,200, leather 320, hemp rope 400, mithril 120, perfect essence 20. Description: consumes camp items, can recruit long-range mage units. He chose a location and directly started the construction. A flicker of blue light appeared, and the outline of a tall tower slowly took shape in front of him. The construction countdown of 20 minutes had passed, and the light faded away. A gloomy tall tower stood before Feng Hao. Undead Mage Tower. Recruit. Undead Mage. Sacrifices. Wriggling Spine 3. Note: the corresponding camp units can be recruited in this building. The higher the building level, the more types of soldiers and higher tiers can be unlocked. Upgrade prerequisites. Lord's Stone Tower. Upgrade materials: solid wood 4200, stone brick 2500, metal parts 850, mithril 240, perfect essence 50, shadowstone 20. The building properties were clear at a glance. However, recruiting the undead mage requires 3 wriggling spines. The rarity and rank of the recruited units likely determine the amount of materials consumed during recruitment. Feng Hao didn't hesitate, consuming 3 wriggling spines to start recruiting. Recruit. Undead Mage. Cost: wriggling spine 3. Do you wish to recruit? Yes. 100 times amplification triggered, recruiting 101 undead mages. A flash of light flickered. 101 undead mages appeared before Feng Hao. They still had the appearance of skeletons, but they held their heads high, dressed in long robes. They were somewhat reminiscent of the skeleton traders. Undead Mage, Tier 3, Camp. Undead. Racial traits: Undead, Hollow Skeleton, Weak to Light. Skills: Dark Missile. Innate skills: Intermediate Magic Mastery. Dark Missile unleashes a dark magic missile, causing massive magic damage and triggers an explosion on hitting the target. The morale of the affected enemies rapidly declines. Note: when life surpasses the years that its body can tolerate, death is inevitable and all that remains is the continuous passage of time. A Tier 3 unit. Not bad. Feng Hao was very satisfied in his heart. Not only did it fill the gap of long-range units in his army, but its rank was relatively high. The skill was Dark Missile. After causing an explosion, the morale of the affected targets drops. Morale is an important potential attribute in battle. Low morale can reduce combat power, and in severe cases, it can even lead to desertion. Therefore, morale can severely affect the course of a battle. The recruited undead mages stood dumbstruck, silently looking at themselves. Feng Hao once again opened the Book of Lords and created a page. He had also obtained a green blueprint for a magic wand from the ruins of the mage city. Perfect for the undead mages to equip. Root wood magic wand, green, solid wood 1, iron 1, essence of magic 2, mithril 2. He checked the warehouse. In the few hours he took to return from Pigmen Village to his territory. The wood processing factory of Pigmen Village had produced solid wood, so he could start making the magic wands. Create, 100-fold increase triggered. Obtained 101 root wood magic wands. A large number of root wood magic wands appeared before Feng Hao. Wooden magic wand, green, category, magic wand, damage, amplification of tier 2 spells. Description: a versatile magic wand made from a variety of materials, effectively amplifying magic spells. 101 wooden magic wands are scattered on both sides. Feng Hao tells the undead mages, pick up the wands, your task is to go to the city walls and stand guard. The undead mages aren't as rigid as the skeleton foot soldiers. They orderly pick up the wands and give a slight bow to Feng Hao before leaving. Even though they're still unable to speak, they show higher intelligence than the skeleton foot soldiers. The mages silently climb the city wall and carry out their patrol duties. Feng Hao heads to the industrial area once again. After the completion of the wood processing plant, he continues to construct a tailor shop. Tailor shop. Wood 750, stone 400, leather 220, hemp rope 120, metal parts 50. Confirm construction. Swiftly, the tailor shop comes into view. Tier 1 tailor shop. Recruitable. Tailors. Tailor. Wriggling spine 1. Note: you can recruit troops belonging to the same camp in this building, and carry out tasks related to spinning raw materials into yarn and weaving fabric. Upgrade requirements: wood 1050, stone 750, leather 340, hemp rope 220, metal parts 2. What the heck? He originally thought that the tailor shop was just a simple building. Unexpectedly, it also serves as a place to recruit troops. Well, it's too late to think more now that the building is already constructed. Recruitable. Skeleton tailor. Consumes 1 wriggling spine. Recruit. Confirm recruitment. Triggered 100-fold amplification. Recruited 101 skeleton tailors. Bursts of light flash, and 101 skeleton tailors, wearing linen robes and leather measuring tapes around their necks, appear before Feng Hao. Though they're skeletons as well, their hollow eye sockets are ignited with blue flames. Skeleton tailor, Tier 1, faction. Undead. Racial traits: Undead, hollow skeleton, weak to light. Skill: raw material processing. Raw material processing. Can turn raw materials into yarn, including but not limited to linen, wool, silk. Note: from fiber to thread, from thread to fabric, from fabric to clothes. Tailors can make ordinary clothing look dazzling. 101 skeleton tailors gather in front of Feng Hao and respectfully bow. They speak in unison: Honorable Lord, we are willing to serve you. They can speak? The undead mages he just recruited with the wriggling spines didn't talk. But these skeleton tailors can. Feng Hao's eyes narrow, but he quickly relaxes. Being able to recruit talking skeletons doesn't seem strange to him. The skeleton merchant, although not a high-ranking combat unit, is also able to speak. Therefore, it seems reasonable that his tailors can talk. Well, welcome to my territory, Feng Hao says with a smile. Hearing Feng Hao's words, the skeleton tailors straighten up. Right, are you guys able to use spinners? Feng Hao suddenly remembers the blueprint for a spinner he received not long ago. The spinner certainly has something to do with fabric weaving, and should be within these tailors' range of work. The leading tailor steps forward and says softly, Sir, we can use the spinner to turn yarn into fabric, and then make various clothes from the fabric. Oh, please wait a moment. Feng Hao opens the Book of Lords and uses the 100-fold amplification to make 101 spinners instantly, handed over to the group of tailors. The unicorns raised in the ranch also provided some wool, although not much. It was enough to keep these fellows busy for a while. What's your name? Feng Hao asked the lead tailor. Sir, my name is Soy. All right, Soy, from now on you're the head of the tailors. You will distribute tasks to everyone from here on out, Feng Hao commanded. The soul fire in Soy flickered as he immediately bowed again. Thank you for your trust, sir. From the conversation, it was clear that Soy was highly intelligent, no less than the skeleton merchant. Perhaps those with special occupations like merchants and tailors all possess normal intelligence. Too dull, and one can't sell items like the skeleton merchant. The development of the domain still relies on everyone's collective efforts. Fang Hao gently patted his shoulder. Soy nodded in agreement. While they were chatting casually, Era ran over. Seeing the oddly dressed skeleton tailors with tape measures hanging around their necks, she almost turned and ran. Only when she saw Fang Hao standing among them did she stop her getaway, yelling, "Master, it's time to eat." All the skeleton tailors turned to look at her in unison, startling Era once again. "Come here, Era," Fang Hao called softly. This was not Era's first encounter with skeletons. She suppressed her worry, hiding behind Fang Hao. Her large ears drooped down. "This is my maid, Era," Fang Hao introduced, and then spoke to Era. "Era, this is Captain Soy and the rest of them are our territory's tailors." "Oh, hello, Captain Soy," Era greeted quietly. Soy responded, "Nice to meet you, Miss Era." Seeing that the skeleton in front of her was courteous, Era was a bit less nervous. "All right, you go about your business. We'll go eat," Fang Hao said, leading Era away. After sending Fang Hao off, Soy also assigned tasks to his folks. They began making thread from cotton and started processing cloth using spinning wheels. On their way back, Fang Hao looked at Era. Era was still wearing the clothes she had on when she was brought over from the slave trader. Her coarse hemp garment, although clean, was still somewhat tattered. "Era, master, what's wrong?" Era's large eyes asked curiously. "Let Soy make a couple of dresses for you when he has time. You've been wearing these for too long." Era was slightly startled, and when she looked up at Fang Hao again, her eyes welled up slightly. Indeed, she had been wearing this dress for a long time. Since she became a slave, she hadn't changed it. Because of numerous washes, the fabric had broken into countless pieces. She used straw to make rope, and simply sewed up the worn parts to continue wearing it. Even so, this had been the best and most free period of her life since becoming a slave. She never thought she would have the privilege of such a life now. Everything in front of her felt like a dream she had while locked in a cage. As soon as the tailors arrived at the territory, Fang Hao wanted to make clothes for her. She was deeply moved. Her big watery eyes looked at her master, full of emotion. "Rabbit Girl Era's loyalty to you increases by 2 points. Current loyalty, 100. Underneath you, Era, whose loyalty to you has reached 100 points, will not show any negative emotions such as betrayal." The sudden appearance of the prompt made Fang Hao slightly startled. Looking at her watery eyes, he felt that the rabbit girl in front of him was extremely cute. He gently stroked her big ears, causing Era's face to flush. Fang Hao suddenly had an idea. Should he ask Soy and the others to make a bunny girl outfit for Era to try on? Sitting down at the dinner table, Era served the prepared dinner. While tasting Era's cooking, he opened up the Book of Lords and turned to the regional chat. "Buying natural gems, resources for gemstones, anyone willing to trade? Damn it, I opened treasure chest today and got city wall blueprints. But the material requirement is too high, I have to save up for half a month. Damn, I'm still building with wood, I'm so envious. Sigh, I don't even have a change of clothes, my stockings are so smelly. Ahem, I would trade 10 units of resources for a pair of ladies' stockings. 20 units. It's been over 10 days since Fang Hao came to this world. Aside from the clothes he was wearing, he also had an outfit stripped off of Zhuang Hong. He had clothes for a change, but most other people had only one set on them. Especially the one with leather shorts on. What a tough guy. Meanwhile, Fang Hao started to consider whether to have the tailor make some clothes for his people and sell them to other lords. During a clothing shortage, they could make some quick money. Once everyone's territory had tailors, it would be much harder to profit from this. On second thought, it seemed quite feasible. He'd ask Soy about it tomorrow. Closing down the regional chat, he continued eating while chatting with Era. On the other side, the Skullcrusher tribe, Cold Wind Mountain Range. Great Chief Shah, sitting on the leader's position, looked at the tributes presented by the affiliated tribes. The gold and silver tribute session had ended. Now was the presentation of orc girls from each tribe. Great Chief, this time 4.0 orc girls have been brought, all of them are here. An old orc reported softly. As soon as he finished, several female orcs walked into the hall from outside, lining up below, waiting for the Great Chief's selection. Some of these orc women were huge, with muscles bulging all over their bodies, and sharp teeth and tusk. Others were of average height, but hairy all over. Greetings, Great Chief. The 40 female orcs spoke in unison, their voices ringing out like thunder in the hall. Ha ha ha, good, very good. Shaw laughed heartily looking at the women below. He walked down the steps, close to a female orc almost 2 meters tall whose body was covered in muscles. His big hand reached directly into her clothes. He nodded in satisfaction. You stay, the others can leave for now. The chosen female orc had a happy expression. The rest seemed disappointed and left. When the hall was empty, Shaw pushed the female orc onto a chair, her buttocks protruding. Just as he was about to have a good time, a voice suddenly reported from outside the door. Great Chief, the scout team has returned and is waiting outside. Shaw frowned and a hint of anger flashed in his eyes. His large hand was still stroking the female orc's body. But eventually, he suppressed his lust, whispering, "Go to my quarters and wait for me." The woman nodded and entered Shaw's bedroom. Shaw returned to his seat and said loudly, "Let them in." The door opened and an orc team leader strode in. Great Chief, the orc saluted. "Speak, what's the news?" Shaw's voice betrayed his impatience. "Great Chief, we have found the other side's city. They have city walls, arrow towers, and all troops are lower-tier skeletons." The orc team leader reported loudly. Shaw narrowed his eyes, thinking for a moment, continued to ask, "Is the other side a human lord? Any news about divine artifacts or treasures?" The Skullcrusher tribe was not particularly close to this lord's territory. The purpose of this long-distance scouting trip was to investigate the divine artifact and treasures mentioned by Fireblade. Of course, he was most concerned about the treasures. As there were too many of them and they patrolled a large area, we didn't see the other side's lord. But from the smoke rising from their city every day, we inferred that it should be the human lord mentioned by Kent. The orc team leader continued. When he had led the scouting, Fang Hao was exploring the mine with his soldiers. Half of the troops were taken away to fight with the iron-eating worm in the mine. He only saw a small part of the force. As for Fang Hao, except under special circumstances, he hardly ever left the city. These orcs had no idea about the effect of God's presence. The only thing they saw was the skeletons coming in and out of the city. Upon hearing that the scouting team hadn't even seen the other lord, Shaw's face darkened even more. Add to that the disruption of his pleasure, a spark of fury ignited in his heart. He huffed heavily, like a bellows. "Attendants," Shaw called out in a low voice. 2 orc soldiers immediately entered the room from outside. "Great Chief." The scouting team was inefficient this time, send them to the punishment ground. "And have them lashed," Shaw said coldly. The orc team leader trembled, not knowing where he had failed. He pleaded loudly, "Great Chief, please spare us, Great Chief." The 2 orc soldiers stepped forward, took him away, dragged him out of the room among his cries. Lashing was not as simple as just a few lashes. 1 lash down was strong enough to kill a cow. And it would follow with several days of exposure under the sun. Every time after a lashing, half of the orcs couldn't survive and would die on the punishment ground. The team leader was taken away, and the hall quieted down again. Shaw squinted slightly, beginning to consider his options. The just punished team leader had gathered comprehensive intelligence, including the scale of the city and strength of its forces. Whether the other side was a human was no longer of importance. Next, all they would have to do was send troops to take over the city. Not only would they acquire the other's treasures, they could also use the city as a base to re-implement the plan of domain migration, and thereby leave this barren land. At this thought, Shaw's eyes lit up again. After uniting the entire Cold Wind Mountain range, he found a new target, a new journey. "Attendant." The orc guard waiting outside came in again. "Great Chief. Notify all leaders, convene a meeting." The next morning, dawn. Fang Hao was having the breakfast era prepared. He watched everyone chatting in the channel. Then he posted a message in the chat too. Buying wool, flax, silk, private chat for a price if you have any. The second Fang Hao's message went out. The previously lively chat suddenly stopped scrolling. Only this message remained inside the chat box. It took 3 seconds before messages started flooding in like an explosion. OMG, Lord Fang Hao is still alive? You thought shit, everyone's living better than you. Wait, let me butt in, is Lord Fang Hao planning to move into the textile industry? Why is he buying all textile-related items? Let me butt in too, Lord Fang Hao, I want to pre-order a pair of underwear. Even though trades are conducted via the channel, and there's no concept of a shop. The various goods that Fang Hao sells all convey a feeling of a shop. Items ranging from bathtubs, iron pots, and even iron axes and boundary markers are all selling out. Indicating that they are very popular, he was selling all sorts of things. Whether it's iron axes, iron boundary markers, iron pots or bathtubs, the truth is, all of them have a durability, and when the durability reaches 0, they can no longer be used. When there are no suitable craftsmen to repair them, they need to be repurchased. So, everyone turns out to be Fang Hao's repeat customers. Now Fang Hao suddenly started purchasing all sorts of textile products without a limit. Everyone was more and more amazed at the development of Fang Hao's territory. Fang Hao looked at everyone's clamor and spoke again. Indeed, our territory has been studying textile products, and if successful, we will sell them to everyone via the regional channel. Anyone who has cotton, flax, silk can chat privately with me about the prices. Damn, I just mentioned it casually, and you really started operating in the textile industry. Do we live in the same world? Boss man, recognize me. Hey mister, I want to put in a tailor order for some dresses. The person above, I know you, you're a man, why do you want to tailor a dress? None of your business, everyone has the right to pursue freedom, so what? One after another, the messages were continuously scrolling. Soon after, someone immediately sent him private messages. Boss Fang Hao, I have some flax here, how much do you want? Fang Hao was startled, it seems like the other party has quite a decent quantity of flax. Minus 500 units, is that enough? Fang Hao roughly burst out with a number. Enough.
Oh.
Fang Hao's mind stirred, he specifically looked at the other party's name Deng Bin. Could it be that this person has already started planting flax? Otherwise, how could he have such a large stock of flax? That's not right. If he can use flax, then there's no way he would sell it to me so eagerly. What do you need in return? Fang Hao continued to ask. The other party kept quiet for a moment, then replied, 20 iron boundary markers, 30 iron spears. Seeing what the other party wanted, he knew that the other party's territory was developing slower, and definitely hadn't reached the stage where it could use flax. At the same time, he couldn't accept this kind of exchange. He replied, iron is popular currently, this amount of flax cannot be exchanged for it. Iron boundary markers and iron spears are all hot-selling products in the market. And their selling prices are not low either. With 500 units of flax, Fang Hao really didn't want to make the trade. Because even if Fang Hao does not want it, the flax still can't be sold. But iron boundary markers and iron spears can still be sold smoothly. The other party was a straightforward person and continued to speak. Boss man, you develop fast, you propose a price, as long as it is acceptable to me, I will sell it. And then you take care of us who develop slower. This person is smart, selling things as they should, and plans to cling on to Fang Hao for future advancement. Fang Hao made a rough calculation in his head and said, I'll buy your 500 units of flax for an equivalent of 2 units of iron. I'll restock every 7 days, you can sell to me anytime. Alright, I want 25 iron spears, we can trade right now. The other party replied quickly. The initial asking price seemed more like a bargaining strategy. Iron spears can be exchanged for 4 units of iron in the trading area. According to the price Fang Hao set, 2 units of iron equates to 25 iron spears. Of course, in Fang Hao's place, there is a 100 times increment, 25 iron spears just cost 2 units of iron. Sure, list them for sale first. Soon, the two reached a deal, and each got what they needed. Fang Hao continued to ask, can you tell me how you got so much flax? This made Fang Hao curious. Sure, Deng Bin discovered this type of flax plant very early. He didn't identify it at first, it was only when the villagers brought it back he found out it was flax by looking at its properties. Later, he followed the place where he found the flax and discovered a large area densely grown in a grassland. Since he had no use for it, he didn't arrange for anyone to harvest it. This time, partnering with Fang Hao, he guaranteed that he would provide a sufficient quantity of flax when trading. After the trade completed and the chat ended, Fang Hao once again obtained some cotton and flax, but he didn't get any silk. When no one else sent him private messages, he closed the Book of Lords. After breakfast, Fang Hao carried out his usual patrol around his territory. When he arrived at the tailor shop, he saw many skeleton tailors operating spinning wheels, processing the cotton threads they made last night into cloth. Now the raw materials in the warehouse are sufficient, enough for them to produce for a while. Good morning, Lord. Soy strode over, respectfully greeted. Soy was appointed as the team captain by Fang Hao, and acquired the authority to command all tailors. She assigned some workers to process cotton into cotton thread, and some workers were making cloth from cotton thread. It seemed that she's allocated the work clearly. Morning, Soy. Fang Hao greeted her with a smile. What can I do for you, Lord? Soy continued to ask. Era, come here. Soy, make some dailyware for her. Fang Hao continued to speak when Era came over. In a private room, Era, wearing underclothes, stood straight in the middle of the room. Fang Hao held a measuring tape, measuring her body dimensions. This matter should not be Fang Hao's responsibility, but under Era's tyranny. Fang Hao had to step in and do it himself. Era, lift your arms. Era lifted her white arms. Fang Hao wrapped the tape from her back, around her chest, creating an indentation in the middle. Master, loosen it, it's too tight. Era said softly. Oh. Fang Hao loosened the measuring tape and noted a number. Then, Fang Hao continued to measure, recording her waist and hip dimensions one by one. Era, your legs are disproportionate to the rest of your body. Fang Hao wrapped the tape around her thigh again. Era's thighs were smooth and delicate, especially when compared to her height, they were long and slender. If she represented in the modern world, she would definitely overshadow most actresses. Master, do you like short legs? Era opened her eyes wide and asked softly. No, I like long ones. Of course he likes longer ones. Oh, that's good. Era breathed a sigh of relief, a strange joy surged in her heart. Soon, Fang Hao finished all the measurements. Then it was Era's turn, who learned by imitation, and measured all of Fang Hao's dimensions from head to toe. Only after they finished all the measurements did they return to the tailor shop and pass the data to Soy. They let Soy make clothes for them first, with the needs of the people on the channel being pushed back. After patrolling the territory, Fang Hao walked back to the Lord's cabin. He was just about to lie back onto the bed to explore the map through God's presence mode. Suddenly, the door was knocked again. Master, Scholar Nelson is out and wants to see you. Era's voice came from behind the door. Nelson is out? Since Nelson entered the Viscera Museum, it had been 4 to 5 days. According to him, it's about time he came out. Stepping out of the cabin, he saw Nelson leaning on his magic wand, with a large skeleton hero standing beside him. Nelson hunched his back, leaning on his magic wand. Although he was an immortal golden hero, his staggering steps looked quite like those of a battle-weary elder. Next to him stood a tall skeleton warrior, his back straight and strong like an erected blade. The contrast between the two was striking. My lord, Nelson bowed slightly. Scholar Nelson, Fang Hao welcomed with a smile. The more contact he had with the undead, the more puzzled Fang Hao was. Why are all living creatures so opposed to the undead clan? Compared to the savage beast clan, skeleton traders and Nelson were both affable, like gentlemen. My lord, allow me to introduce Fireblade. The skeleton warrior with a strong physique knelt down on one knee and said loudly. Fireblade pledges loyalty unto death to you, my lord. Fang Hao's brow furrowed as he turned to look at Nelson. Nelson nodded in affirmation. Fireblade Kent, the orc hero who died at his hands. After being transformed by Nelson, His status had become one of the heroes under Fang Hao's command. Fireblade, level 3 hero. Faction: Undead. Template: Blue. Racial traits: Undead, Hollow Skeleton, Weakness to Light. Army talent: Berserk, Infantry Commander, Chariot Commander. Skills: Blood Rage, Flame Slash, Killing Intent, Cruelty. Innate abilities: Advanced Tactical Mastery, Advanced Equestrian Mastery, Advanced Command Mastery, Advanced Two-Handed Weapon Mastery. Berserk: troops under his command gain a 1% increase in strength after killing or assisting in killing an enemy. This effect lasts for 5 seconds and can stack up to 15 times. Infantry Commander: infantry troops get an 8% increase in attack power. Chariot Commander: chariot troops get a 5% increase in attack power. Blood Rage: active, enters a rage in battle. All attributes increase by 10%. Flame Slash: active, swings the sword once, burning the air, inflicting 100% fire damage. Killing Intent: passive, when injured, attack increases by 15%. Cruelty: passive, inflicts greater damage on seriously wounded enemies. Description: product of the immortal corpse witch, not recognized by the god of Undead. This hero cannot progress or advance. Fireblade's attributes were quite good. During his battle with the Beast Clan, Fang Hao had relied on overwhelming numbers of his undead army to bring down Fireblade. The area around Fireblade was piled high with the skeletons of his victims. Now that he has been transformed by Nelson, he has become one of the undead heroes under Fang Hao. However, while Fireblade may be a hero, he could no longer progress or advance, remaining as is perpetually. That is to say, Fireblade's potential has peaked, he could no longer improve. Of course, it's too early to consider the issue of hero advancement at this point. Adding one more hero brought a significant improvement to the fief. He proceeded to check Fireblade's loyalty. Fireblade's loyalty to you has reached 2. Your subordinate, Fireblade's loyalty has reached 100 points. Negative emotions such as treachery and betrayal will not appear. The soul of Fireblade Kent had been bound and modified by Nelson. Although he retained his intellect, he lacked independent emotions. He had no memory of the past and would only be loyal to the fiefdom and to Fang Hao. This was a relief to Fang Hao. In this way, Fireblade would harbor no further thoughts of revenge against him. Good, Fireblade, I welcome your addition, Fang Hao declared loudly. Fireblade rose to his feet. Thank you, my lord. After a moment of consideration, Fang Hao instructed 2 of his skeleton guards, go fetch the bloodthirsty set. The 2 skeleton warriors went into the room and brought out the 4 pieces of the bloodthirsty set and the bloodthirsty blade. This set of equipment had been obtained from the Fireblade tribe. Because it was too heavy, neither he nor any other soldiers could wear it, so it was kept in the Lord's Hall. Fireblade, I entrust this set of gear to you. I hope in the future you will make a great contribution to our land. After all the twists and turns, it ended up back in Fireblade's hands. Thank you, my lord. Fireblade donned the bloodthirsty set, holding the bloodthirsty blade in his hand. And his aura became instantly fierce. All right, wait for me outside the territory, later we will explore the nearby map together. Yes, my lord, Fireblade responded and waited outside the territory. Fang Hao had a brief chat with Nelson and then went straight back to the lord's cabin. In his god's present state, he took Fireblade and his troops to explore unknown areas. Dusk was approaching. The large troop returned with a full load. Although they didn't come across any special strongholds or forces, they hunted numerous beasts and found several wooden treasure chests. Animals were butchered, providing food and hides, increasing the storage in the warehouse. And the chests contained a good number of items. Blueprint for Iron Hoe, Blueprint for Stone Bowl, Natural Gem 12, Mithril 10, Springs Trace 3, Magic Power Trace 2. It was quite a rewarding excursion. Wooden treasure chests usually contained limited items. Besides materials, blueprints were generally basic ones. As Fang Hao collected all the blueprints, the skeleton crew returning from Shadowwind Castle just happened to be unloading. He had allocated a large amount of skeletons to demolish in Shadowwind Castle. During his map exploration, he had checked the progress at Shadowwind Castle. The once towering Shadowwind Castle had been reduced to ruins. And after consecutive work by thousands of skeletons, there was nothing left but rubble and broken walls. The stone brick reserves in the territory were now enough for current upgrades. And the speed of producing stone bricks at the stone processing factory was faster than regular mining. So he immediately issued the command for a full retreat. All the working skeletons were called back to the territory. Feng Hao, with 1,200 skeleton laborers in front of the territory gate, started assigning tasks. Firstly, he established 3 stone quarries and 3 logging sites outside the territory. Then he upgraded all the quarries and logging sites to level 4. Level 4 quarry, category, building, description, quarry area, stone collection efficiency plus 15%. Level 4 logging site, category, building, description, logging site area, wood collection efficiency plus 15%. Once established, it could significantly improve the efficiency of basic resource extraction. The laborer skeletons began their work. Feng Hao then returned to the territory and upgraded the other buildings. He upgraded the underground cemetery, warehouse, burial grounds, castle wall, arrow tower, and corridor of the dead, all to level 4. When all the upgrades were complete, the storage area for resources in the territory became instantly spacious. All was done. It was also time for dinner. Perhaps because of the new clothes on the way, Era was clearly in a good mood. She introduced the ingredients for dinner to Feng Hao and fed him actively. As the two enjoyed their meal, the long-lost system prompt sounded again in everyone's ears. Congratulations on surviving 13 days. In 10 hours, all surviving lords' territories will enter the compulsory task, Nature's Revenge, where all territories will be attacked by Nature's Guardians. The number of Nature's Guardians will be adjusted according to the total amount of resources collected within 14 days. Good luck. The sudden task leaves Feng Hao slightly stunned. He immediately turned to look at the wooden board recording the time next to him. Today was his 13th day after the crossing. In 10 hours, it would be the 14th day. Could it be that there's a compulsory task every 7 days? Feng Hao didn't get much time to think. The system prompt resounded again. Challenge mission. Nature's Revenge. Accepted. Mission content. Prevent the advancing Nature Guardians. Mission description. Your reckless deforestation and exploited the angered Nature Guardians. They will retaliate for your actions, with a troop deployment of 120,000. Good luck. Staring at the mission, Feng Hao frowned slightly. An unknown force had brought them to this world, forcing everyone to participate in this inexplicable military competition. Those lagging behind will be mercilessly eliminated. Everyone was struggling to survive, constantly mining resources, and developing their territories. And now they were telling him this was environmental destruction, being punished by nature. If you don't mine, you die, and if you do, they say you're destroying the environment. Either way, they were behind it. It was hard to figure out how to survive. Feng Hao directly opened the Book of Lords to see if anyone else had also received the mission. Sure enough, as soon as he opened it, they were discussing this matter. It's over, I'm going to die. Tomorrow I'll be attacked by 12 of those guardian things. How am I supposed to survive? WTF, the guy above isn't content. I have over 50 guardians. Stop arguing, didn't the prompt say it? It's based on territory mining quantity, the allocation of monsters. The more resources you mine, the more guardian comes to attack your territory. Why, though, I traded my resources with boss Feng Hao for food and equipment. Why are they after me? Right, we should trade for weapons with boss Feng Hao. My territory is just starting to develop, I don't want to die. Boss, I want to trade equipment with you too. No sooner had they wrapped up their discussion was the Book of Lords bombarded with numerous messages. Countless people were exchanging weapons, armor, and food privately. Right now, the equipment that Feng Hao sold externally was fairly basic. The weapons were iron spears, the armors were complete sets of leather armor. As for the more advanced equipment, such as the green plate armor, Feng Hao did not sell them. He remained cautious. In this world, even the weapons sold had to maintain superiority over his own equipment. During the recent period of peace, both the equipment and meat food sales slowed down considerably. Seizing the opportunity, they could amass a significant amount of war wealth. Trader. Feng Hao. Items registered. Iron spear. Quantity. 10,000 required for 1 to 4. Iron ore or any rare resource. Note: if there are special items, you can private chat to increase the weapon quantity. Next, he listed 10,000 sets of leather armor and 5,000 units of meat food, exchanging for various scarce resources. Feng Hao did not lack ordinary resources, what he wanted were those scarce resources. His ability was naturally limited. But with many people in the region, obtaining these resources was not difficult. The moment the weapons, armor, and food trade links were displayed, public discussions resumed. Holy crap, listing 10,000. At the crucial moment, I still have to rely on boss Feng Hao, others just can't do it. Stop wasting time, the quantity is quickly running out. Damn, you animals, you guys are all too quick. At the same time, Feng Hao received many private messages, ignoring those planning on buying on credit and the resources Feng Hao didn't need. Finally, he filtered out 2 contents with the blueprints. Boss Feng Hao, I have a blueprint here. Take a look at how many iron spears can it be exchanged for. Civilian house building blueprint. House building blueprint. Category: building blueprint. Description: can construct standard civilian houses, no special features. This type of house is different from the human faction's built-in civilian house. The built-in civilian houses are functional buildings that provide the function of recruiting farmers in addition to living. And house buildings are just standard houses, providing shelter from wind and rain, but do not possess special features. I'll give you 5 iron spears, Feng Hao replied. The opposing party was silent for a while, ultimately still agreed. The battle of tomorrow is imminent and they have no resources to exchange. He had no choice but to exchange the blueprint. Even if 5 spears were a bit of a loss for him, he had to persist in trading. Only people who survive can talk about the future. The two completed the trade. Feng Hao successfully got the blueprint he wanted. After that, Feng Hao successively traded for many blueprints from other lords. Bedside table making blueprint, white. Wooden barricade making blueprint, white. Wool carpet making blueprint, white. Beast skin backpack making blueprint, white. Sturdy fishing rod making blueprint, green. One blueprint after another, Feng Hao reaped a lot. This trade was equivalent to him cleaning out 2 or 3 small bases. Master, would you like some fruit? After the dinner, Era was cleaning up the dishes and politely asking. Sometimes when Feng Hao was too busy, he would leave hurriedly after eating. Yeah, sure, oh, and first call Nelson and Fireblade over, I have something to tell them. Feng Hao quietly said. Oh, alright? Era bounded off to find Nelson and Fireblade. The territory was not crowded, but it was quite large. Sometimes Feng Hao would wonder why the channel always had people saying they have recruited some refugees in their territories, and they even had some with special skills. Why did nothing happen in his territory? If a couple of refugees came here, it could also bring a little bit of vitality to the territory. In a short while, Nelson and Fireblade swiftly came over. Upon seeing Feng Hao, they courteously greeted him. My lord, you asked for us. Yeah, I have something to tell you. I just got news that the territory will be under attack tomorrow, you two should be prepared. Feng Hao quietly said. Hearing this news, whether it was Nelson or Fireblade, they looked at each other. My lord, where did you get this news, is it accurate? Nelson curiously asked. Absolutely accurate, the attack will start tomorrow morning, with a force of 120,000. Feng Hao affirmed confidently. What is the plan, my lord? Nelson continued to ask. Feng Hao rubbed his temples, quietly said. There are ample sacrifices in the territory. Tomorrow morning I will increase the force within the territory, then Nelson you command the ranged troops. And Fireblade commands the infantry. In fact, there wasn't any special plan. They didn't even know what the enemy looked like right now. However, as the hero within the territory, Feng Hao needed to inform the two in advance so that they can be psychologically prepared. So it won't be a mess during the war. Rest assured, my lord, Fireblade will defend the territory to death, to protect your safety. Fireblade immediately stood up and loudly declared. Fireblade was created with 100% loyalty. His loyalty was absolute to Feng Hao and the territory. Even if Feng Hao told him to die, he would immediately execute the order. Not to mention leading an army into battle. Hearing Fireblade's words, Fang Hao gave a small smile, reassuringly said, "It's not to that extent, the territory can handle a battle of this scale."